This story starts like a typical manhwa, where at the end of the world, our protagonist gains an overpowered ability. But this time, there wasn't just one reason for the world ending, but multiple crises happening at once. A pandemic, war, economic decline, and food shortages. But all these were just warning signs. The real destruction came when game-like characters, known as monsters, suddenly appeared and brought humanity to the brink of extinction. What happened next was quite predictable, like it happens in novels. Metahumans, people with special abilities, started appearing, but some things were different from the novels. The metahumans weren't powerful enough to stop this apocalypse. And so, we see the apocalyptic world. For those who don't know, shut-ins are people who are confined to a room, usually due to illness or disability. Let's get back to the story. He was sitting comfortably, eating chips and drinking soda. Honestly, it was a good sign, showing that the world wasn't completely over. The fact that he was calmly eating snacks was proof of it. But even though he was alive, he was completely alone, which made him quite sad. He was alone in this 100-square-meter apartment. His parents, grandparents, everyone was gone. The reason for this was that his father had decided to buy this place and took a loan of 200 million won from the bank. Not only that, he invested all the family assets worth 200 million won into it. Our protagonist, who wasn't born into a rich family, was still living here because of a tax benefit scheme. To avail of this benefit, it was necessary for someone to live in the property for at least 2 years. That's why his family told him to stay here. As he watched the apocalypse unfold, where there was no internet connection, he became even more depressed. Suddenly, a loud roar shook his place. He looked up and saw a monster gliding toward his apartment in the sky. As the monster got closer, it opened its filthy mouth, like it was about to swallow him. He panicked, unsure of what would happen next, but then something strange happened. A system notification appeared in front of him that read, "A subject who was not even allowed entry is trying to enter." He was a little surprised but not shocked because this was the defense mechanism that had kept him alive so far. But now, this system is becoming his worst nightmare. He tried everything to open the door. He even kicked it, but it wouldn't budge. 3 days had passed since the world ended, and this ability was the only thing keeping him alive. But it was also trapping him in this apartment. At night, he sat quietly by himself, while the system window on the front kept glowing. On it, it read, "The ultimate shut-in cannot leave the house." Reading that made him angry. He had been dragged into this terrible situation, and now he was given this messed-up title, like it was something special. Now his biggest problem was starting to show. His food supplies were running low, and since yesterday, the electricity had been cut off. He was surviving on side dishes from the fridge, but they won't last much longer. He only had a few packets of ramen left. Suddenly, the system window pings again, showing a notification that he has hunted a Calican and earned a lot of XP points in return. His skill level has increased. He is completely shocked when he sees this. He looks outside and sees the monster's lifeless body lying on the ground. Then he realizes that the monster is being eaten by goblins. It's hard for him to believe that he hunted this monster in self-defense without even realizing it. Meanwhile, the system notifies him that he has gained a new skill and a nearby loot has met the requirements. The system is now calculating the loot. Suddenly, he hears terrifying roars. He looks down and sees the goblins going crazy after devouring the monster's flesh. It seems that the food they were feasting on is disappearing, and the goblins are angry because it's slipping out of their hands. The system informs him that the loot calculation is complete, and our protagonist has earned approximately 2.2 million won. At that moment, the lights in the room flicker, and electricity suddenly returns. The system now shows more information, revealing a new skill, House Declaration, which is at level 3. This is a passive skill that prevents anyone from entering the house without the ruler's permission. The second passive skill is Dignity Preservation, at level 1, which restores half of the house's functions to preserve his dignity. The system also shows that his wallet is maxed out, and he now has a total of 2.2 million won. Unable to contain his joy, the protagonist rushes toward the fridge, opens it, and confirms that it's working. Not only that, the taps now have water, and the electric stove is also working. Filled with excitement, he starts to cry tears of happiness. It feels like everything is returning to normal, just like it was before the world ended. But with a pinch of salt, he picks up his phone to check the network. Sadly, the network is still not working. This disappoints him, but then his gaze falls on a pen drive lying on the floor. He picks it up, plugs it into his PC, and starts playing the files. Inside are recordings made by his parents, memories of his childhood and life journey, showing how he grew step by step. Watching this, he is deeply moved. These memories numb his heart, and all he wants is to somehow bring his family back. He makes up his mind that he will bring his family here at any cost. Standing up, he steels his resolve. But before he can get lost in his thoughts, a system window grabs his attention. It reads that he can now purchase listed items from the store at their original prices. This is new to him, and he is stunned because he didn't expect this at all. Curious, he pressed the store icon. The system window opens, showing the option to list his money and items. The system seems to be linked to his wallet as it displays the money he has. Instead of thinking too much about the situation, he opens the balcony window. But as soon as he's about to step outside, the system stops him with a warning. He can't leave the house. He expected this. Even though his skill level has increased slightly, he is still trapped. But one thing is clear. If he hunts monsters, his level will increase, and maybe he'll unlock new skills. Perhaps one of those skills will give him a way out. But the problem is, in his current state, he has no idea how to kill the monsters. Situations like the Calican encounter are rare and won't happen often. Just then, an idea pops into his head. Maybe he can kill the goblins. He picks up a bottle of water from the fridge and throws it with all his might. The bottle flies out of the apartment. Seeing this, he feels a moment of joy because he initially thought he wouldn't even be able to throw things outside. Then, he decides to take it a step further. He picks up a dumbbell and heads toward the balcony. As soon as he steps outside, he notices something strange. The goblins are there, but it looks like they are leaving the area. They are dragging chunks of the dead monster as they retreat. This surprises the shut-in, and he feels like his last opportunity is slipping away. Without thinking, he quickly swings his arm and throws the dumbbell outside. However, instead of hitting a goblin, the dumbbell lands directly on the dead monster's body. This catches the attention of the furious goblins, and they turn toward him. His heart races with fear as he realizes the goblins have seen him. Terrified and drenched in sweat, he has one more dumbbell left, but he doesn't want to waste it again. The problem is that there's nothing else in the house that could help him kill these monsters, and he's not strong enough to throw the TV or computer outside. He watches as the goblins, now angrier than before, begin to charge at him. But strangely, this situation isn't as bad as it seems. In fact, this is exactly what he wanted. The goblins are getting closer, and now he can hit them without missing. This is his chance. Then, he remembers the store option in the system, which he unlocked earlier. He immediately activates his system panel and opens the store. He presses the List Items option, and the system asks him if he wants to list the dumbbell. He agrees. As soon as he agrees, the system scans the dumbbell, and now it is unlocked in the store. He can buy it for about 177,000 yuan. The shut-in is surprised to see that the listed price is exactly the same as when he bought dumbbells online before the world ended. This confirms that the market rates are still the same as they were before the world ended. Without hesitation, he buys 2 more dumbbells. As soon as the transaction is completed, the system window flashes with a blue light, and the dumbbells begin to materialize. This makes him so happy that he starts cheering loudly. His joyful screams echo outside the apartment. The next moment, he throws a dumbbell with all his might. It lands directly on a green goblin's head, instantly killing it. He earns some XP and around 3,000 yuan, which is immediately deposited into his wallet. He's absolutely thrilled. Below, the goblins, who are watching their fallen companion, panic. But before they can properly mourn their friend, their eyes fall on another dumbbell flying toward them. The goblins scatter quickly, trying to save themselves. Unfortunately, the dumbbell doesn't hit anyone. This miss annoys the shut-in, so he spends more money and buys 3 more dumbbells. This time, he throws all 3, and he successfully kills one goblin. The system immediately notifies him that he has killed a level 6 goblin. As usual, he gets cash, but the most important thing is that his skill level has increased, and he has unlocked a new ability. Turns out, he now has access to an alternate dimension where he can store items. Excited, he commands the system to open the storage. As soon as the system opens it, it asks if he wants to store the dumbbell inside. Without hesitation, he agrees. The dumbbell starts to pixelate, and a system window pops up confirming that he has successfully stored a non-slip 3-kilogram dumbbell. The system then asks if he wants to summon any items from storage. His face lights up with joy, and he quickly says yes. The dumbbell materializes instantly in his hand. Thrilled, he realizes that he can now summon items from the alternate dimension into real life, anywhere. Holding the dumbbell again, he becomes lost in thoughts about the possibilities of this new skill. Unable to hold back, he decides it's time to execute the ultimate plan. He buys more dumbbells and stores them in the alternate dimension. Once he is fully prepared, he commands the system to open storage. With a single command, a bunch of dumbbells appear. It's as if he has opened the gates of Babylon. He lets them fall like rain, as if they were himself. The goblins stand there, watching as a massive number of dumbbells fall on them. Some are terrified, and as the dumbbells hit them, the goblins begin to die. With each goblin falling, he claims XP points. In total, he earned 54,000 yuan from this one attack. The system then asks if he wants to list additional items. He immediately says yes. Since the store can list a maximum of 10 items, he lists groceries and some essential items. He even sells the dumbbell he used to defeat the goblins and gets his money back. But suddenly, something feels strange. He notices that 1 yuan is missing. He thinks about how this happened, and then it clicks in his mind. It's probably because his refrigerator is running and the electric, gas, and water bills are eating into his money. This news worries him because he doesn't have any other way to cover the household expenses. After the dumbbells fell on the goblins, they fled in fear, leaving their old home behind. Since then, he has only killed 2 more goblins, and he isn't sure if there are any more creatures to hunt. When he looks down, he only sees a rotting head of a dead monster. The shut-in knows that if he doesn't hunt something soon, his situation will get worse. He has to figure something out no matter what. He looks up at the sky with a disappointed face, hoping to see a flying monster he can hunt. It seems like luck is on his side because suddenly he spots a massive monster gliding through the sky. The shut-in is momentarily shocked, but he doesn't want to waste this opportunity that fate has given him. He quickly prepares to hunt. He ties a large spoon to a ladder and extends it over the balcony since he can't step outside the boundaries. Then, he tries to catch the monster's attention by making the shiny spoon glint. As expected, the monster finally notices the flash from the building and charges toward it as soon as it spots the shut-in. It seems ready to devour him. The shut-in is happy that he has successfully baited the foolish monster, and when the monster hits the barrier, its head bounces back. The shut-in is sure that the deal is done, and he will level up soon. But just then, the monster starts flapping its wings forcefully. The wind from its wings is so strong that the shut-in struggles to stay on his feet. He is being pushed backward, and eventually, the monster disappears from his view. But when the shut-in peeks from the balcony, he is shocked. The creature is sitting right outside his window. This creepy thing roars, its twisted tongue hanging out and drooling, staring at him as if he's its next delicious snack. The shut-in is so scared on the other side that he can't even move. The monster then closes its mouth and slams its strong beak against the barrier. The system immediately flashes a warning. Unauthorized entity is attempting to enter. But no matter how much strength the monster uses, it cannot break the barrier. Each impact proves useless. However, seeing the sheer strength of its attacks, the shut-in is left amazed. He begins to doubt whether the barrier can really withstand these attacks. Not wanting to take any risks, he quickly opens his store and checks the listed items. According to his observation, the loot calculator activates only when there are nearby corpses. The shut-in recalls that his goblin hunts haven't always been successful because some survivors had picked up their fallen companions' corpses, and once those corpses were outside the distance limit, the loot calculator didn't activate. He doesn't want the same thing to happen this time, so he starts thinking about how to bring the monster down in a single shot. His eyes land on bottles of 900 milliliters of canola oil stacked in the store. Without wasting any time, he quickly buys 10 bottles. As soon as the transaction completes, the bottles appear near his feet. He picks them up quickly and places a pan on the stove. He pours all the oil into the pan and turns on the heat. Then, he takes a broomstick, wraps disposable paper around it, and secures it with tape. He soaks the paper in the oil and then opens the store, listing the boiling oil. The system announces that the boiling oil has been successfully listed. He then picks up a lighter and prepares to set the soaked paper on fire. The paper catches fire quickly. He moves to the window and sees that the monster is still sitting on his apartment's roof, waiting for its prey. Little does the monster know that its prey has become the hunter, and the shut-in is about to teach it a bitter lesson. The shut-in quickly summons the canola oil. As the system window activates, the boiling oil starts falling on the monster's head. The monster screams in pain as the oil pours on it. Anyone can tell from its condition how much pain it's in, but the shut-in's plan isn't over yet. He is ready to escalate the fire. As soon as the flames touch the oil-soaked monster, it immediately ignites. The monster's agonizing screams sound like a victory whistle to the shut-in. He watches as the monster slowly starts to fall. Its burning body crashes to the ground, and its suffering finally ends. A system window pops up, congratulating the shut-in for defeating the monster. He receives a massive amount of XP, his skill level increases, and a new skill is unlocked. But that's not all. The system detects the hunted monster and registers it as loot. After the loot calculation is completed, it registers a total of 9 million yuan. When the shut-in sees such a massive amount, his mind literally blows. He can't believe his eyes. But before he can fully recover from this shock, another notification pops up. The notification reveals that the requirements have been met, and now the territory expansion process is starting. Suddenly, the entire building begins to shake, as if an earthquake has struck, or at least that's how it feels to the shut-in. He feels a strange pressure on his heart, and his perspective begins to expand. The sensation becomes so intense that his heart starts to ache. His senses keep growing, and at one point, he is literally able to see inside the other apartments in the building. He spots a surviving family, and this completely surprises him. He never imagined there would be anyone else living there besides him. Suddenly, his eyes change color, and he doesn't know what's happening to him. For some strange reason, he can now see people, but he can't understand why. Then, out of nowhere, he recovers and starts observing things normally again. Just then, the system introduces him to these unexpected neighbors. The first adult is Choi Hyung-jun, a husband in his late 30s. The second adult is Park Hye-won, his wife, also in her late 30s. Along with them are their two daughters, Choi Nae-yeon, their 6-year-old first daughter, and Choi Seo-yeon, their 3-year-old youngest daughter. The system informs him that these individuals meet the requirements to become citizens of his territory. The system then asks if he wants to grant them citizenship. The shut-in feels uncertain about whether or not he should grant them citizenship and wonders what would happen if he doesn't. The system explains that if a being is not granted citizenship, they will be expelled from the home and become vulnerable to monster attacks. Faced with this harsh reality, the shut-in decides to be generous and becomes a landlord instead of selfishly keeping the territory for himself. As soon as he gives the command, the system announces that Choi Hyung-jun, Park Hye-won, Choi Nae-yeon, and Choi Seo-yeon have been granted citizenship. After making this decision, the shut-in feels good because he thinks he may have unlocked more skills related to citizenship. He plans to check them out. Just then, the system announces that his new skill, Ultimate Eyes, has been unlocked. However, the shut-in isn't fully satisfied yet, so he scans the system to see if there are any more skills related to citizenship. The system flashes a new notification about a skill called Ruler Declaration. It's a passive skill that ensures no one can enter the house without the ruler's permission. Along with this, a new icon appears, Citizenship Management. The shut-in immediately decides to explore this, as it's exactly what he was looking for. When he opens it, he sees the names of all 4 citizens, along with their power levels and trust levels. But what surprises him the most is that he can keep up to 600 citizens. 600 is no small number, and it seems staggering to him. He clicks on one of the citizens' names and views all their information. He can even see their experience distribution rate and money distribution rate. He is given 2 options, either assign them a quest or expel them from his territory. The shut-in doesn't fully understand the concept of experience and money distribution rates, but he thinks it probably refers to how much experience and money the citizens share with him. The fact that he can control these rates feels like having a cheat code. It's now entirely up to him how much experience and money he wants to keep for himself. The shut-in notices the quest option and, curious, presses the button. A new screen pops up, giving him the option to customize the quest, including the quest description, deadline, reward, and penalty for failure. Without much thought, he quickly assigns Choi Hyung-jun a simple task: to kill a goblin within 168 hours. The reward is a small amount of experience, and for now, there is no penalty. The system prompts him to confirm the quest, but before confirming, the shut-in wonders how extreme the penalty can be. To test it, he changes the penalty to death upon failure. The shut-in is shocked to see that the system accepts this without hesitation. However, he does not confirm the quest and cancels the request. This deeply troubles him, as it dawns on him that he holds such immense power, enough to kill any citizen through penalties alone. This thought fills him with deep unease, and he begins pondering what he should do next. At that moment, he gets the idea to use his newly acquired skill, Ultimate Eyes. When he activates the skill, his perspective broadens, and he can literally see everything. This time, he notices a family below. He sees a wife, Hye-won, asking her husband, Hyung-jun, what they should do now. Hyung-jun is also clueless, but decides to go outside and try to fetch water. He tells his wife to stay with the kids and wait for him. However, she doesn't like the idea, as the outside area is full of monsters. She reminds him that there's a chance he might not find any water. But Hyung-jun mentions a nearby convenience store and says that it's a big store where there's a good chance of finding something. The thirsty children plead with their father for water, adding to Hyung-jun's pressure. Finally, he decides that he has no other option and must go outside. He reassures his wife that he will return soon. Despite her fears, she reluctantly lets him go. The shut-in deactivates his skill and returns to his apartment, realizing how dire the situation has become. He opens his store interface to check if he can increase the storage capacity. When he activates the window skill, he notices that all 3 of his storage-related skills are still at level 1. However, he's pleased to see that upgrading them requires only 1 point, and he currently has 3 points available. The system prompts him to confirm whether he wants to upgrade the ultimate shut-in store skill. Without wasting any time, he presses yes. The system window glows with a blue light, and once the upgrade is complete, the system announces that the store is now at level 2. Now he can list 20 items, and a 10% discount is applied to all item prices. After the upgrade, the shut-in remembers that he still has 2 points left. After some thought, he decides to invest 1 point into the store and the other into the dignity preservation skill, as he feels he may encounter more citizens in the future. He upgrades the store again, and when it reaches level 3, the item limit increases to 40 and a new feature is unlocked: Restore Items. This feature can restore old and damaged items to a like-new condition. The shut-in finds this feature very useful and is thrilled that he upgraded the storage to level 3. Without wasting any time, he gets to work on his plan. He opens his store and purchases water and oranges. He then decides to upgrade his other skills as well. The system prompts him to confirm whether he wants to upgrade the ultimate shut-in dignity preservation skill. Without hesitation, he immediately clicks yes. His plan is crystal clear. If he provides his neighbors with essential items like electricity and water, he can request various things from them in return. Now that the dignity preservation skill is at level 2, he unlocks a new feature: the ability to register vessels. However, the shut-in doesn't even know what registering vessels means. Meanwhile, Hyung-jun is preparing to step out of his house to gather something for his family. It's very difficult for Haiwan to see her husband leave like this, but he reassures his children that he will be back soon. He encourages them to be brave and protect the house in his absence. However, the little girls are visibly scared and don't want their father to leave. Their small voices tremble as they plead with him to stay. Hyung-jun gently pats both of their heads and promises to return with food and water for everyone. He tells them to listen to their mother while he's gone. But then, the youngest daughter loses her composure. Tears well up in her eyes, and she reminds her father that there are monsters outside. The story suddenly flashes back to a moment when the 2 girls were happily playing in a park, as if the world wasn't about to end. But then everything changed. Chaos erupted abruptly, filling the streets. The girls froze in fear, and the happiness on their faces turned into sheer terror. They began running as fast as they could to escape the playground. Instinctively, the older sister grabbed her younger sister's hand and started pulling her away to save her life. Just then, their father grabbed the older daughter, and their mother picked up the younger one. The entire family ran for their lives. Remembering that terror-filled moment, Hyung-jun feels no hesitation as he prepares to step outside. A man must do whatever it takes for his family. At that moment, the doorknob starts turning, startling everyone. Hyung-jun cautiously moves toward the door, holding a golf club in his hand. The movement at the door suddenly stops, but then the silence is broken by a human voice from the other side, asking them to open the door. Hearing another person's voice shocks Hyung-jun even more. He cannot believe there could actually be someone outside, but it's also possible that it's a monster. Not wanting to take any risks, he remains still. The boy outside keeps calling out, but Hyung-jun stays ready in his defensive stance. Eventually, the calls stop, and the silence convinces him that whoever it was has left. Suddenly, the front gate swings open, and the bright light from outside forces Hyung-jun to quickly pull his family back to protect them. But there's no reason to be scared. It's just the shut-in, standing there with a plastic bag full of supplies. Hyung-jun cautiously asks him for his identity, and the shut-in introduces himself as Kim Jae-hyun, the next-door neighbor. He explains that he has water and oranges and wants to sit with them to talk after they eat. Now, we learn our protagonist's real name, so we'll refer to him as Kim from now on. Hyung-jun is briefly shocked, but when he considers the situation, he realizes that his family urgently needs water and food. He sees no reason to reject this help. A nagging feeling in his mind suggests that this boy might genuinely want to help with their struggles. With this thought, Hyung-jun warmly welcomes Kim into their home. Meanwhile, the young girls are completely scared. They don't know who this stranger is, and their unease is clearly visible on their faces. Their hesitation is so obvious that even Kim can sense the tension. He feels that his sudden entry might have been too shocking for them. As he sits down, he looks around and notices how dark the place is. It's clear that the family has purposely covered the entire apartment with curtains. He finds this move clever, as it reduces the chances of being spotted or attacked by monsters. The first thought that comes to Kim's mind is to make the room a bit brighter. He focuses on this one task, and suddenly, the entire room lights up. Hyung-jun is a bit shocked to see the lights come back. Kim then pulls out a water bottle and says, "Just treat your kids with this for now. There's no time to be surprised." Hyung-jun quickly grabs the water bottles and gives them to his girls. The two thirsty girls immediately start drinking, and every sip seems to satisfy them more. The younger daughter, Seo-yin, drinks so quickly that she starts to choke a little. After Seo-yin finishes drinking the water, Kim decides to treat them to something else. He takes out an orange and hands it to Seo-yin. The girl's eyes light up with excitement, and her mouth waters at the sight of the juicy fruit. However, before she can eat it, her mom decides to peel it first. Once the peel is removed, she feeds a piece of the orange to her daughter. As the juicy sweetness spreads in Seo-yin's mouth, her mind is filled with pure delight. A slight tingling sensation tickles her cheeks, and she can't hold back her happiness. Her mom asks, "Is it good?" And Seo-yin nods eagerly with a simple yes. Seeing this, her older sister, Naeon, excitedly demands a piece of the orange too. When she takes a bite, her reaction mirrors her sister's, pure joy and sweetness. Meanwhile, Kim receives notifications from his system. He learns that the trust level of the entire family toward him has increased. Seo-yin's trust level has even reached 50, which pushes her loyalty stat above 30. The system informs Kim that Seo-yin has fulfilled all the requirements to be registered as a vessel and has now reached level 2. For a moment, Kim considers whether Seo-yin qualifies. After all, she's still very young. Unlike regular citizens, Kim can only register 10 vessels, and they must be capable of following orders at least on par with Choi Hyung-jun's level. While the younger girl's trust level is sky-high, her father, Hyung-jun's, trust remains stuck at 31. Kim understands that building more trust with Hyung-jun, the family's key member, is essential. Suddenly, Hyung-jun calls him and sincerely thanks him for showing such kindness to his family. He admits he wants to repay this favor, but isn't sure how. In response, Kim suggests they talk in the corridor. Once in the corridor, Kim casually asks Hyung-jun, "Have you obtained citizenship?" Hearing this, a sudden system window pops up in Hyung-jun's view. He admits that the notification for citizenship arrived for his entire family about 30 minutes ago and confirms that they've received it. Kim immediately asks if anything unusual happened at that time. Hyung-jun agrees and explains that, for a brief moment, they couldn't move their bodies. Hearing this, Kim realizes that when people are granted citizenship, they temporarily freeze. Seizing this moment, Kim speaks to Hyung-jun again, this time making a promise. He declares that he will do everything in his power to restore the life Hyung-jun had before this madness. Hyung-jun is utterly stunned by this declaration, but before he can respond, Kim reinforces his words, promising to protect them from the monsters and ensure no creature ever enters their home again. Hyung-jun finds it hard to believe. Sensing this, Kim confidently assures him that it is possible. Hyung-jun then realizes that such protection won't come for free. He directly asks what he needs to do in return. Kim, without mincing words, makes it clear that there are risks involved, and it could even cost Hyung-jun his life. Kim asks if he is ready for it. Hyung-jun hesitates for a moment. After all, who wouldn't value their life? But, driven by the need to protect his family, he gathers his courage and confidently declares that he's ready to do whatever it takes. He further explains that even before Kim arrived, he was planning to risk his life to get food and water to save his family. Hearing this, Kim feels pleased because he's finally getting the help he needs. Then Kim remembers that Hyung-jun had earlier been holding a golf club. He asks how much it costs. Hyung-jun, confused by the question, responds that it's worth about 500,000 won, maybe a bit more or less. We all know why Kim asked this, but hearing the price, he feels a bit bummed. He's unsure whether to list it in his shop for now, as he doesn't want to waste money unnecessarily. Noticing Kim's reaction, Hyungjun asks why he suddenly brought up the topic. Kim quickly deflects the question and shifts the topic, asking Hyungjun if he remembers the day the monsters first appeared. He replies, "Of course, how could I forget?" He says it was a weekend and admits that even thinking about that day still scares him. Kim acknowledges this and points out that those who stayed at home that day managed to survive. He reflects that a single goblin isn't particularly powerful, and their levels are lower than an adult male's. The real danger with goblins is that they always come in groups. But then, humans are the same, aren't they? They also have the ability to form groups. That's why Kim wants to grow his army. He tells Hyungjun that from now on, the two of them will search for other survivors. Kim's attractive proposal, that supplies and finding more survivors would be mutually beneficial, increases Hyungjun's trust in him even further. Now, Kim is relaxing on his couch, passively gaining trust. The children's trust levels are so high that they could become vessels, but their parents are still a bit cautious. Kim hopes that if he continues adding more people to his side, he might eventually be able to meet them again. These calm thoughts are interrupted by a loud shriek coming from below. He quickly opens his balcony to see what's happening downstairs. In front of the building, he sees something he desperately needed: other people. A group of young men and women were fighting off a large horde of goblins. As much as June wanted to help them, battling goblins was difficult for him. The goblins were growling angrily, and a young man, who seemed to be the leader of the group, threw a fastball with perfect form. As the ball left his hand, a goblin's head exploded. With one monster down, the group's odds of winning improved. Kim was shocked to see this. Then, a girl launched 2 arrows simultaneously from her bow, earning the group 2 more kills. The remaining goblins, caught off guard by how quickly their allies were falling, were completely thrown off. Next, the batter jumped and hit the last goblin's head with such force that it was taken out in a single strike. The goblins standing farther away, after seeing their companions being killed, immediately ran for their lives. It seemed like this group was quite competent at monster hunting. However, one girl heard a loud thud from behind her. She pulled back her bowstring, expecting a sneaky goblin attack. But it was just a ramen packet that had fallen from above. This was June's way of attracting the group's attention. He waved at them to come inside, signaling them desperately to enter. He flailed his arms around, looking quite goofy, but he couldn't think of any other way. Just then his doorbell rang. Perhaps Hyungjun had returned after completing his quest. Outside the door stood Mr. Choi, looking nervous and holding a heavy box. Hyung welcomed him inside, but as Hyungjun tried to enter, he was stopped by an invisible wall. Kim's system had deemed him unqualified, indicating that the barrier likely applied to citizens as well. Only registered vessels could freely enter this domain. Understanding the situation, Hyungjun handed the box to Kim. Inside were all the items from their home that could be used as weapons. When Kim opened it, he found a decent haul: knives and an entire toolbox, which he could list in his shop. Casually, Kim opened his store and purchased 5 bottles of water and 5 ramen packets. When Hyungjun saw June effortlessly conjure precious supplies, he was so shocked that he almost fainted. Kim placed the supplies into a bag and tasked Hyungjun with taking them to the first floor and leaving them at the main entrance. Hyungjun hesitated, knowing the dangers outside, but Kim assured him everything would be fine. By observing the goblins' behavior, Kim had figured out that goblins were only active in broad daylight. The purpose of the supplies was clear. Kim wanted to use them to lure outsiders into his domain. In these tough times, those who had food and water held the power. The group would undoubtedly seek him out once they realized he had supplies. Kim only instructed Mr. Choi to drop the box downstairs. If he didn't have to face monsters, the task should be easy. Seeing Mr. Choi's receptive attitude, Kim felt like doing something good for him. He opened the quest menu and listed the task of delivering water and ramen as an official quest. He also added a bit of XP as a reward. When the quest prompt popped up in front of Mr. Choi, he was surprised. He asked if these mechanics were like those in video games. Kim confirmed this. Hyungjun was currently level 9, and Kim knew that leveling up and earning good rewards were crucial for him. The reliable dad, as Mr. Choi was labeled, took a deep breath and mustered his courage before heading downstairs. Most parts of the building still had no power, so he had to use the stairs. For protection, he took his golf club along. Descending from the 20th floor to the ground floor took a toll on his body, but at least he only had to place the supplies downstairs. As he stepped outside, he saw silhouettes of a group. He immediately assumed the worst-case scenario. His paranoia and anxiety led him to believe he was looking at a pack of wild, disgusting goblins. His first instinct was to run away as quickly as possible. But in his haste, Mr. Choi twisted his ankle and fell. The box slipped from his hands, and the water bottles and ramen packets scattered on the ground. The pain from the fall was real, but the fear of being noticed by the group was even more terrifying. He tried to move his leg, pleading for it to work, fearing the group had already seen him. As he sensed their presence closing in, he covered his head with his hands, expecting an attack. But then he heard someone in the silhouette speak in a human language. He felt a mix of relief and embarrassment. They weren't goblins, they were just a group of young people. Kim received a notification that unauthorized subjects were attempting to enter his domain. Curious to understand the situation, he activated his ultimate eyes and expanded his all-seeing vision across his entire territory. He discovered that Mr. Choi had brought the group into the building. Naturally, the group was cautious about the unfamiliar place. All they knew was that someone had thrown ramen packets from above, which suggested there was food in the building, a potential solution to their dwindling supplies problem. Kim's system deemed the group eligible for citizenship and prompted him to offer them official citizenship. Unlike the Choi family, who had been forcefully granted citizenship because they were already within his expanded area of influence, outsiders were given a choice. Kim worried that the group might reject his invitation. While he was contemplating a contingency plan, the doorbell rang. On the digital monitor, Kim saw that Mr. Choi was standing outside again. At that moment, Kim came up with a viable plan. He edited the Big Bro quest and assigned Mr. Choi a new task: to prepare a hot meal for the 6 guests. As soon as the quest was updated, the prompt popped up before Mr. Choi. Kim urged him to accept it, saying he had a plan in mind. The quest appeared innocuous, so Mr. Choi accepted it and approached the group, convincing them with the promise of a decent meal. Kim granted the group access to his floor, officially increasing the number of his citizens to 10. With the population increase, he noticed a 10% boost in XP and money earned by citizens, which would be incredibly useful for future monster hunts. In the Citizen Management tab, he reviewed everyone's names, levels, and trust points. Leading the group was Ha Dongan, at level 23 with 19 trust points. The others, Kang Deoksu, Kim Gaeong, Yu Hairan, Kim Jian, and Moon Byungo, had levels ranging between 10 and 17, with varying trust points. Ha Dongan's level of 23 placed him on par with the strength level of the recently defeated Calican. Curious, Kim inspected Ha Dongan's further and discovered his awakened ability: Baseball Throw, a D-rank skill that tripled the power of a thrown ball at the cost of stamina. If a skilled individual threw a baseball, it could already be a lethal weapon, but with the skill amplifying its power threefold, it became an exceptionally dangerous tool. This skill was perfect for fighting monsters. As for Ha Dongan's trust level, Kim knew it could be increased gradually in various ways. For now, Kim set the XP distribution levels of everyone to 10%. His next step was to assign them monster hunting quests so he could sit back and passively earn XP in cash. It felt like playing an auto-hunting game to June, but he realized he needed to know these people better to determine whether they were trustworthy. After all, these individuals could be his bridge to reuniting with his family. Suddenly, Ha Dongan's trust level increased, without Kim doing anything. Not just him, but Kim Gaeong and Yu Hairan's trust levels rose as well. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi played the gracious host, welcoming the group into his home. Mrs. Choi rushed in, slightly alarmed by the sudden influx of strangers. Her husband promised to explain everything later, emphasizing that, for now, everyone needed a decent meal. Cooking something on short notice was challenging, but for Kim's plan to succeed, Mrs. Choi's culinary skills were essential. After some thought, she accepted the request. The group, particularly Ha Dongan, who appeared to be their leader, displayed excellent manners. Ha Dongan even asked Mr. Choi for more details about Kim. Mr. Choi admitted he didn't know much about Kim. All he knew was that he is an intriguing individual capable of creating an apocalyptic environment, but only in selected areas. Hearing this, Ha Dongan confirmed his assessment. There was a metahuman behind these resources. He concluded that Kim's ability was extremely powerful and rare. Thankfully, Ha Dongan was intelligent enough not to harbor any malicious intentions. He reasoned that impressing someone as powerful as Kim was the smartest move he could make. Finally, Ha Dongan realized that if they had someone who could provide electricity, food, and water, they would be game changers in this world. Since the food would take time to prepare, Mr. Choi asked if the group wanted to bathe. The girls were overjoyed. After days of being stuck in dirt, This was like a heavenly experience for them. The excitement only grew when Mr. Choi mentioned that they had access to hot water. In the Choi household, both the living room and the master bedroom had bathrooms, so the girls could bathe first. They looked at Mr. Choi as though he were a savior. However, the boys remained a bit apprehensive. Ha Dongin felt that this enigmatic Kim seemed like a metahuman, with abilities far more powerful than his own. When one of the group members suggested that they fight Kim to defeat him, Ha Dongin scolded him, telling him to keep quiet and not do anything foolish. He explained that they needed to impress their benefactor, not make mistakes. He literally folded his hands and begged his junior to stay quiet and not do anything stupid. The group's goal was simple: secure as much food and supplies as possible, and doing so without causing trouble was their best shot. Dongin reminded the group to remain polite and always read the room. Fortunately, even the most thick-headed member of their team respected Ha Dongin's orders. However, one member, Byung-go, seemed visibly uncomfortable, though the reason was unclear. As a good leader, Dongin went up to Byung-go and apologized for dragging him into this situation. He felt guilty for inviting everyone to his home during the apocalypse. Byung-go tried to brush it off, but his anxious look was hard to ignore. Dongin promised that once they secured the supplies, they would visit Byung-go's grandmother's house. Byung-go thanked Dongin for his consideration, but deep down, he knew it was too late now. Despite the circumstances, Dongin remained optimistic, believing that if they worked together, they could still make it through. Just as their conversation was continuing, the sound of a door interrupted them. The man entering had an electric aura about him. The door opened slowly, and all eyes turned to the entrance. Dongin felt as though they were being stalked by a fearsome predator. Instinctively, he grabbed his ball, ready to throw it at any moment. But the new arrival was no enemy, just Kim Jae-hyun, entering with plastic bags in both hands. He had overheard their conversation and offered to help with their troubles. The group felt a strange mix of fear and trust toward him. This newcomer might just be the one to help them escape this apocalyptic desperation. The scene shifted to a quieter moment. Minutes passed in silence as they sat around the table, the tension in the air almost palpable. Finally, Haiwan, Fatty's wife, broke the stillness. Feeling the weight of the moment, she apologized for the cramped space. Dongin, striving to be courteous, reassured her that it was fine. They had arrived unannounced. After all, the lack of space didn't bother them. Just then, Hyeongjin entered and announced that the food was ready. One by one, Fatty placed bowls of rice before them. As they looked at the spread, a realization struck them. They were about to have a real meal. It had been so long since they'd eaten properly that they couldn't even recall the last time. Haiwan hesitated slightly, feeling a bit awkward. She admitted she wasn't sure if the food would suit their tastes. But what seemed like a simple meal to her left the group's Archer completely stunned. She stared at the dishes, unable to contain her amazement. Without holding back, she told Haiwan that the food was incredible, confessing it had been ages since she had eaten something this delicious. Haiwan, brushing off the compliments shyly, explained that it was all thanks to the ingredients Kim Jae-hyun had provided. Without his help, she admitted, all she would have been able to serve was rice and tangerines. Meanwhile, the protagonist noticed something else. Haiwan's trust level had reached 50. He smiled quietly to himself, the sight reminding him of his mother, who would always beam with joy when guests praised her cooking. But as he dwelled on the thought, he realized something surprising. Haiwan's trust had now surpassed even Hyeongjin's. As everyone dug into their food, they expressed their gratitude to Haiwan. She and Fatty watched as their guests ate with a hunger that suggested they hadn't had a proper meal in ages. The Archer, in particular, couldn't stop praising the egg rolls, while another girl noted that the style seemed Japanese. Haiwan smiled warmly, agreeing with her and politely encouraging them to enjoy the meal. At that moment, Haiwan's youngest daughter, Seoyin, called out to her, capturing her attention. The little girl wanted to eat the egg rolls too, but Haiwan gently explained that she would make more for her once the guests had finished. Seoyin's face fell slightly, disappointment flickering in her eyes. Noticing this, the Archer turned to Seoyin with a kind smile and asked if she'd like to share the egg rolls with her. Instantly, the child's face lit up, her excitement brightening the entire room. Without hesitation, she ran over and climbed onto the Archer's lap, her eagerness clear. The Archer, touched by the little girl's enthusiasm, picked up a piece of egg roll and softly asked her to open her mouth. Seoyin beamed as she took a bite, her joy infectious. The warmth of the moment filled the room, making it even more lively. Then, the protagonist spoke up, suggesting that Hyungjin and Haiwan join them, assuring them there was more than enough food for everyone. The two exchanged a hesitant glance before eventually smiling and agreeing, happy to be part of the gathering. As they all shared the meal together, laughter and cheerful conversation filled the space. The protagonist took a quiet moment to soak it all in. The warmth, the chatter, the simple joy of sharing a meal. It had been so long since he had experienced something like this. His thoughts drifted to his mother and the care she had always shown. A soft smile spread across his face as he silently hoped that his family was safe. Time passed, and soon, the food was gone, leaving only empty dishes on the table. Haiwan's youngest daughter, now tired, mumbled that she wanted a rest. Haiwan gently lifted her into her arms, then turned to her eldest daughter, asking her to follow so they could put Soyeon to bed. With that, she excused herself from the table and left the room. Moments later, the protagonist decided it was time to get back to business. He turned to the group, bringing up their earlier discussion. Why, despite the grandmother's house being so close, had they been unable to reach it? Dongin's expression grew serious as he explained a reason. It was because of the goblins. The protagonist raised an eyebrow, skeptical. He had faced goblins himself before, and while they were dangerous, he doubted they alone could have completely blocked their path. Sensing his doubt, Dongin nodded grimly, assuring him it was true. He elaborated that the goblins had discovered an underground parking lot and turned it into their base, using it as a hiding spot. The protagonist's curiosity deepened. He asked if they had any idea how many goblins were down there. Dongin's face darkened. With a heavy sigh, he admitted that there were thousands of them in the underground area. The protagonist fell silent, thinking carefully. His abilities were effective up to level 30, but only from ground level. Underground, his skills wouldn't be as useful. Suddenly, everything clicked. This was how the goblins had infiltrated the area unnoticed. Dongin continued, explaining that the underground parking lot was directly connected to the entrance of the apartment building they needed to reach. The goblins had transformed it into their stronghold, rarely venturing outside. The protagonist, recalling the layout of the surrounding roads, turned to Han and asked about the side paths. Were there any alternative routes they could have taken? Dongin nodded, admitting that their original plan had been to use the side roads to escape. But they had encountered something far worse than the goblins. That caught the protagonist's attention. He leaned forward slightly, pressing for details. What could possibly be more dangerous than an army of goblins? Han's expression turned uneasy as he recounted what they had seen. A massive shadow, something that resembled a bear. He explained that they had only managed to escape the apartment building because the creature had been fighting the goblins, creating a brief window for them to slip away. The protagonist, considering their next move, asked for more details about this creature. Dongin hesitated before admitting he wasn't entirely sure if it was a bear. The darkness had made it difficult to see clearly. The protagonist exhaled sharply, then spoke decisively. Sooner or later, they would have to face both the goblins and this shadowy figure. Dongin agreed, but lowered his gaze, acknowledging a harsh truth. Their group simply wasn't equipped to handle both threats at once. The protagonist, curious about the limitations they faced, sought clarification. The archer explained that both she and Dongin relied on specific items, arrows and baseballs, for combat. However, their supplies were dwindling, and replenishing them wasn't an easy task. Despite the challenge, Dongin remained composed. Rather than dwelling on the problem, protagonist suggested finding a solution and requested to inspect their current weapons. Without hesitation, the archer handed over her equipment, allowing him to examine the arrow and baseball closely. At that moment, the system prompted the protagonist, asking if he wanted to list these items. Without delay, he agreed, and the system immediately began scanning them. Within moments, it displayed the cost required to replicate the weapons. When asked for confirmation, the protagonist made his decision without hesitation. Glancing around the table, he assessed the group's ability to use the archer's weapon. Their silent nods indicated understanding. There was only one available for now. Taking their response as agreement, he turned back to the system and requested 5 additional sets of the archer's weapon along with arrows. As soon as the request was made, the newly created items materialized on the table. The protagonist then directed his attention to the group, making it clear that this was their chance to familiarize themselves with weapons. These, he stated firmly, would now be their primary tools for survival. The moment the weapons appeared, The system notified him that several members of Dongin's group had grown to trust him more. Meanwhile, Moon Byung-go's gaze remained locked onto the weapons. Awe flickered in his eyes as he took in the sight, realizing just how resourceful the protagonist truly was. For the first time, a real sense of hope surged within him. Perhaps, with the protagonist's help, they might actually be able to save his grandmother. The system confirmed what he already felt. Moon Byung-go's trust in the protagonist had increased significantly. A brief silence settled over the group before Dongin finally spoke, acknowledging that with the protagonist's support, their hunting efficiency would improve dramatically. Another girl echoed the sentiment, noting that his assistance would make their tasks far safer. No longer would they have to put themselves at risk just to recover lost arrows. With their attention focused on him, the protagonist brought up a crucial next step. They needed to reduce the number of goblins in the area before they could proceed. Dongin immediately agreed and inquired about when they should begin the hunt. Without hesitation, the protagonist gave his answer. They will start tomorrow. A flicker of hesitation crossed Dongin's face as he questioned the urgency, but the protagonist remained resolute. Acting sooner, he explained, would increase their chances of success. Though still uncertain, Dongin eventually nodded in agreement. Nearby, protagonist turned to Moon Byung-go, offering reassurance. Tomorrow, he promised they would rescue his grandmother. Byung-go's expression brightened at the thought. The hope of seeing his grandmother again filled him with excitement and determination. Despite the growing sense of optimism, Dongin still harbored concerns. The dangers ahead were significant, and he questioned how they would navigate so many obstacles. The protagonist, however, responded with quiet confidence. He had already devised a plan. They would use a bait strategy to lure the goblins out. The weight of his words settled over the group, drawing everyone's attention. Anticipation filled the room as they waited for further details. Dongin and the archer remained thoughtful, carefully considering the feasibility of the approach. However, the boy with glasses hesitated, voicing his concerns. The plan, he pointed out, would only work if everything unfolded exactly as intended. The system notified the protagonist that the mission previously assigned to Fatty had been successfully completed. Along with the update came an unexpected reward, 30,000 won. As he read the message, he was momentarily surprised. He hadn't realized that monetary rewards were granted for each completed mission. To be certain, he reread the notification, and the confirmation was clear. A realization quickly set in. With enough money, he could assign more missions to his citizens, allowing them to level up. This meant that the more wealth he accumulated, the more power he could build. While this strategy seemed promising in the long run, he knew he couldn't afford to rely on it too heavily for now. The system then provided another update. Hyungjin's trust level had reached 50 points, unlocking a new status, loyalty. Since it had surpassed 30 points, it met the minimum threshold for a resident to transition into a vassal. A window displayed Hyungjin's updated stats and attributes. He was now at level 9, with a trust level of 51 and loyalty at 62. However, he had no awakened skills, no shared experience, and 0% monetary contributions. After analyzing the information carefully, the protagonist made his decision. He would officially register Fatty as his first vassal. The moment the registration was confirmed, a faint blue aura surrounded Hyungjin. Almost instantly, his breathing became heavier, and sweat formed on his forehead as a strange energy coursed through his body. The transformation was intense, making him momentarily disoriented. System notification. First vassal registration successful. With the successful registration, the system granted the protagonist a new skill, Summon Vassal. This ability allowed him to summon his vassal within his house, though it had a cooldown period of 2 hours after each use. The system updated Hyungjin's stats once again, revealing that his level had now surged to 20, and he gained the title First Servant. Additionally, he had awakened his first skill, Gorilla Strength, a Tier C passive ability that granted him superhuman strength. Further details clarified that, thanks to the First Servant title, all experience points and gold earned by Hyungjin through hunting would now be shared with the protagonist. The system also revealed an additional ability, Ultimate Eyes, which allowed the protagonist to summon his vassal within a 5-meter radius of his house. As he examined Hyungjin's stats, the protagonist noticed a plus symbol beside his level. Curious, he tapped on it, triggering another system prompt. Would you like to increase your vassal's level? Cost. 1,000,001. The sudden price shocked him. Increasing a single vassal's level required a staggering 1,000,001. The cost seemed absurdly high, making him question whether the investment was even worth considering at this stage. His reaction didn't go unnoticed, as one of the women seated at the table cast him a questioning glance, sensing that something was off. However, rather than explaining, he simply dismissed it and refocused his attention on Hyungjin. The effects of the transformation were now fully manifesting. Hyungjin clenched his fists, feeling an overwhelming surge of strength within his body. His veins pulsed visibly beneath his skin, and the sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if his body had reverted back by 10 years, restoring his lost vitality. Recognizing Hyungjin's newfound strength, the protagonist saw an opportunity. Without hesitation, he handed him a bow, signaling his next task. Though Hyungjin appeared momentarily confused, the system's benefits made it clear. Vassals earned double the rewards compared to regular citizens. Assigning him a combat-based mission would maximize his potential. With a firm resolve, the protagonist issued a clear command. Hyungjin was to defeat as many monsters as possible. The weight of the task settled in, but Hyungjin did not hesitate. He nodded in agreement, hesitantly accepting his new role. Seeing this, the protagonist felt a sense of satisfaction. His trust in Hyungjin was well placed, and he looked forward to seeing how his first vassal would grow. Outside the house, on the first floor, the rescue team began their search for survivors. Leading the group was Deoksu, gripping a baseball bat tightly in his hands. A hint of doubt crossed his face as he questioned whether searching the first floor was even necessary. However, Dongan quickly reminded him that this was Jaehyun's direct order. With no further hesitation, the team set out on their mission, to locate and escort all survivors to the 30th floor. But their task was twofold. While rescuing civilians, they also had to lure out goblins for elimination, reducing the threat level in the building. Kong Deoksu acknowledged the plan, and the group pressed forward. Dongan's voice rang out, urging everyone to stay alert. Goblins could appear at any moment, from any direction. As they moved cautiously through the corridors, tension hung heavy in the air. Yet despite their careful search, they found neither survivors nor goblins. Only an eerie silence that made their unease grow. Then something caught Dongan's eye. As he guided the team forward, the atmosphere shifted. Several members suddenly froze, their faces twisted in horror. Scattered across the floor lay lifeless bodies, their forms twisted in unnatural positions. The grim scene made it painfully clear. These people had fallen victim to the goblins' brutality. A wave of sorrow and rage swept through the team, intensifying their hatred for the creatures responsible. But they couldn't afford to stop. Pushing their emotions aside, they pressed onward. Upon reaching the second floor, the devastation only worsened. The sheer carnage before them was staggering. More bodies, more senseless loss. The weight of the situation settled on the team, yet they steeled themselves, determined to keep moving forward. Reaching the third floor, the scene took an unexpected turn. Unlike the floors below, everything seemed calm. With renewed hope, the team leaders stepped forward, knocking on doors, calling out for survivors. The rest of the team quickly followed suit, checking every door, every corner. But time and time again, they were met with silence. With each unanswered knock, their spirits sank further. Heads lowered, burdened by the sadness of failure, the team stood still for a moment. But Dongan refused to let despair take hold. They couldn't give up now. Encouraging his comrades, he pushed them forward, leading the way to the fourth floor. There, they resumed knocking, their voices echoing through the quiet halls. Then, a response. A door creaked open, revealing a tired-looking man. His eyes were filled with suspicion, but his exhaustion was even more evident. His voice cracked as he spoke, admitting that he was extremely thirsty and begging for water. Without hesitation, Dongan pulled out a bottle and handed it to him. Even as he took a desperate sip, the man remained wary. He hesitated before asking again, needing reassurance. Was this really a rescue team? Dongan stepped forward, his tone steady and confident. As a resident of the building, he explained that he was helping to lead survivors to safety. The man seemed surprised at this, his guarded expression shifting slightly. For a moment, he disappeared behind the door. When he returned, he was not alone. Behind him stood two more people, their expressions mirroring his uncertainty. Introducing himself as Hong Yong-soo, the man finally relented. he would trust them. Dongan took the opportunity to formally introduce himself, expressing hope for good cooperation. He then introduced the girls in the team, instructing them to escort Hong Yong-soo and his group to the 30th floor before returning to continue the mission. However, Hong Yong-soo hesitated. Was the 30th floor really safe? His doubt was evident, but before he could voice his concerns further, his son spoke up. Unlike his father, the boy had been waiting for a rescue. His words carried a flicker of optimism, even suggesting that a helicopter might be waiting for them. The archer girl gently clarified that there was no helicopter, but she reassured them that hot food and a bath were waiting instead. Hearing this, Hong Yong-soo's daughter's eyes lit up with excitement. Even amid the apocalypse, the idea of a warm bath felt like a luxury beyond imagination. She gasped in wonder, marveling at the thought. With a small chuckle, the girl and the rescue team confirmed that it would indeed be a warm bath. The little girl's enthusiasm was infectious. She turned to her father, her voice full of urgency, pleading with him to stop hesitating. Her excitement and determination left him with little choice. Reluctantly, Hong Yong-soo gave in, choosing to follow the rescue team, placing his trust in them at last. Shortly after, the system notified the protagonist that the total number of citizens had now increased to 40. Along with this, their collective XP and gold had reached 90%, marking a significant boost in their overall strength. Not long after, confirmation arrived that the mission had been a success. Several people had been rescued, including the elderly and children, were taken to Fatty's house, where a sense of relief and happiness filled the air. Meanwhile, the younger men remained stationed in the hallways, standing guard. Dongan, brimming with confidence, confirmed that the final count was exactly 40 people, with no one left behind in the search. The protagonist acknowledged their efforts, expressing his gratitude for the excellent teamwork that had led to such a successful outcome. With everything settled, the protagonist activated his skill, Absolute Eye. Instantly, his eyes darkened to an inky black, enhancing his vision as he meticulously observed the movements of his citizens. Every action became crystal clear. Some were carrying chairs, others were working with cables along the stairs, hauling heavy ropes, and even struggling to transport an enormous object up the staircase. The efficiency of their work was impressive. Once the ability deactivated, his eyes returned to normal, and a slight smile formed on his lips. Satisfied with the progress, he turned to Dongan and informed him that it was time to initiate Phase 2 of the goblin hunting operation. Now in the hallway, Dongan took charge, gathering the group's attention and laying out the next plan. He explained their strategy in detail. They would lure out all the goblins hiding in the basement and eliminate them in a systematic manner. Their mission would begin on the first underground floor, B1. The group would split into 2 teams, each responsible for drawing out and eliminating the goblins lurking there. Once B1 was cleared, they would proceed downward to B2, ensuring that no goblins remained. As Dongan spoke, Glasses raised his hand, bringing up a concern. He questioned what would happen if more goblins appeared than expected, and pointed out that in the event of a counterattack, the fallen goblin bodies could obstruct their escape routes. His concerns were met with unwavering confidence. Both the archer and Dongan reassured him that they were now far better prepared. Unlike before, they had plenty of arrows and throwable weapons to deal with any surprises. Hearing this, Glasses gave a firm nod, deciding to place his trust in their strategy. Just then, an unexpected noise broke through the conversation. The group instinctively turned toward the source of the sound. Emerging from the shadows, 3 goblins stood ready to attack. But before they could make their move, the archer acted instantly. With practiced precision, she drew her bow and fired 2 rapid shots, striking the heads of 2 goblins in quick succession. Both fell lifeless on the spot, leaving only one standing. Seizing the moment, Batman rushed forward, gripping his weapon tightly. With a single, crushing blow, he smashed the remaining goblin's skull, ending the skirmish in mere seconds. As the dust settled, Glasses turned to Deoxu, questioning his choice of weapon. He pointed out that earlier, Deoxu had insisted on needing a bow to fight goblins. So why was he relying on a bat now? Somewhat sheepishly, Deoxu admitted they had a point. Meanwhile, the archer made an observation. She pointed at the fallen goblins, noting that their bodies were beginning to vanish shortly after being defeated. This strange phenomenon caught the attention of Byung-go, who speculated whether this was another ability linked to Jaehyun. Ignoring the lingering questions, Dongan swiftly refocused the group. Declaring the first floor's mission complete, he signaled for everyone to proceed to B1, ready for the next phase of their hunt. Even as they moved forward, Byung-go remained deep in thought, still pondering whether the protagonist had a specific plan for dealing with the disappearing goblin bodies. Before he could dwell on it further, the system issued another notification. Citizen trust is increasing. The scene shifted to the protagonist, sitting calmly as he opened a bottle, enjoying the moment while a series of system windows appeared before him. It wasn't something he had planned, but he reassured himself that he was still keeping an eye on everyone. A new system notification appeared, revealing that Moon Byung-go's trust had reached 50, unlocking the loyalty stat. The system further indicated that Byung-go's loyalty had surpassed 30, meeting the requirements for registration. The protagonist was momentarily surprised by how quickly Byung-go had reached these numbers, but he saw it as a good thing. The faster his people advanced, the better it would be in the long run. Seated on the floor, he gazed thoughtfully at the system window, reviewing Byung-go's updated stats, 55 in trust and an astonishing 88 in loyalty. The unusually high loyalty score caught his attention, but instead of overanalyzing it, he simply acknowledged it as a positive outcome. With an ironic smile, he pressed the button confirming the retention registration, marking the process as complete. Meanwhile, in the basement on B1, the group was locked in a fierce battle against the goblins. Suddenly, Byung-go's body began to radiate a blue glow, similar to what had happened with Hyeongjin before. Holding his bow tightly, he stood frozen as lightning surged around him. The rest of the group was just as stunned, watching in disbelief. Even the goblins, unable to comprehend the sudden burst of light, hesitated. Their vision was temporarily impaired by the intense glow emanating from Byung-go. In the darkness, his red eyes shone ominously, further unsettling their enemies. Seizing the moment, Dongan's voice rang out, urging everyone to take advantage of the goblin's temporary blindness. Without wasting a second, part of the group quickly created distance, while the archers stayed behind, taking precise shots at their immobilized foes. Both archers demonstrated deadly accuracy, aiming solely for the goblins' heads. Fueled by sheer fury, the female archer executed a swift maneuver, cutting down multiple goblins in an instant. Seeing their fallen comrades, the remaining goblins let out enraged shrieks and charged forward with renewed aggression. However, as the battle raged on, the group realized that no matter how many goblins they killed, their numbers only seemed to increase. The relentless wave of enemies made them uneasy. This wasn't a fight they had expected to be so overwhelming. Amid the chaos, the archers shouted out an order. Everyone was to retreat to the emergency stairwell. The urgency in her voice left no room for hesitation. As they ran, the Batman speculated that all the goblins from the B2 floor had likely converged onto their current location, explaining the seemingly endless swarm of enemies. Upon reaching the emergency stairwell, the group rushed inside, their breaths ragged from exhaustion. However, their escape was far from secure. As they attempted to shut the door behind them, Dongan pressed against it with all his strength, trying to block the goblins from advancing. A sudden clawed hand forced its way through the narrow gap, stopping the door from closing fully. From the other side, a guttural, mocking voice taunted Dongan, sarcastically asking if he planned to hold the door by himself. Realizing the struggle, Glasses and Batman immediately rushed to help, throwing their weight against the door in a desperate attempt to keep it shut. Yet, despite their combined efforts, the goblins' overwhelming force slowly began to pry it open. A voice from behind cut through the chaos, offering reassurance. It was Hyeongjin. Using the gorilla strength ability granted to him earlier, he sprang into action. With sheer force, he single-handedly held the door shut, blocking the goblins' relentless advance. Despite the overwhelming pressure, he stood firm, his muscles straining under the weight of the assault. Dongan, caught between worry and urgency, questioned whether he could hold on, but Hyeongjin urged them to hurry up the stairs. Though his strength was extraordinary, sweat trickled down his face, and his arms trembled from the sheer effort of keeping the door sealed. Yet, his resolve remained unshaken. This was his duty, one he had to fulfill. At last, Dongan's voice rang out from above, signaling that everyone had made it to safety. The moment had come. Hyeongjin needed to fall back. Without hesitation, he turned away from the door and sprinted up the stairs. But just as relief settled in, disaster struck. Midway up, his foot caught on a step, sending him crashing to the ground. Pain shot through his body as he scrambled to get back up. But there was no time. The goblins were already upon him. Their jagged weapons glinted in the dim light as they closed the distance. Panic set in. Trapped and defenseless, Hyungjin shouted for the others to leave him behind and continue the evacuation. But even as he spoke, his heart pounded with fear. Dongan hesitated at the top of the stairs, torn between leaving and trying to help. Before he could decide, someone else moved first. A blur of motion shot past him. Deoksu. Without a second thought, he charged down the stairs, bat in hand, and with a single, devastating swing, he smashed the closest goblin aside. The impact sent the creature crashing into the wall, its body limp from the sheer force of the blow. Reaching out, Deoksu extended a hand to Hyungjin, urging him to move. Struggling on the ground, Hyungjin tried to crawl forward, desperation in his eyes. But just as his fingers grazed Deoksu's outstretched hand, a goblin's clawed grip latched onto his ankle. Before either of them could react, Hyungjin vanished, gone in an instant, without a trace. Deoksu froze, stunned. His mind struggled to process what had just happened. 1 second, Hyungjin had been right in front of him, and the next, he had disappeared. But there was no time to dwell on the shock. The goblins were still advancing. A shrill screech shattered the moment as a goblin leaped toward Deoksu, claws outstretched. But before it could land its strike, he swung his bat with perfect timing, striking the creature midair and sending it hurtling back down the stairs. Meanwhile, the rest of the group provided support from above, arrows flying down toward the approaching horde. Their voices rang out, shouting desperately for Deoksu to move faster. The goblins were closing in. Gripping his bat tightly, Deoksu didn't look back. He pushed forward, sprinting up the stairs with everything he had. Outside, under the full moon, the night was far from quiet. A monstrous, bear-like creature stood amidst the darkness, its glowing red eyes burning with hunger. The ground beneath it was slick with blood as it effortlessly devoured a goblin, its agonized screams piercing the night before fading into silence. With every bite, the creature exuded an ominous aura, an undeniable presence of raw, predatory power. As it finished its grisly meal, its fangs gleamed under the moonlight, dripping with fresh carnage. Yet, its hunger was not satisfied. A low, guttural growl rumbled from its chest, a declaration of its unrelenting appetite. Then, a sound unexpectedly shattered the stillness. From behind, eerie, inhuman screams echoed, carrying from a massive building nearby. The unsettling noise twisted through the night, an unnatural presence that did not belong. The creature turned its head sharply, its glowing eyes narrowing. The top floor of the building was still illuminated, standing out against the darkness. As it locked onto its new target, its bloodlust intensified. A snarl rumbled from deep within its throat as a single thought consumed its mind. It would devour everyone inside. The scene shifts, and suddenly, a swirling purple light appears, with Fatty falling down from it. But there's no need to worry. He wasn't dead. Instead, the protagonist had used his ability to safely teleport him away. Watching from a distance, the protagonist had been keeping an eye on the entire situation and managed to pull Fatty out of danger at just the right moment. Fatty hit the ground, but as he landed in a clumsy hero pose, he still couldn't comprehend what had just happened. The protagonist, standing nearby, smiled and remarked that it was a close call. Fatty rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming, but then he saw the protagonist extending a hand to help him up. The protagonist explained that he had been using his absolute eye ability to keep track of everything and was relieved that his vessel summoning ability was functioning properly. As Fatty tried to stand, a sharp pain shot through his leg. That's when he realized that the goblin had injured him when grabbing him. But everything had happened so fast that he hadn't even noticed. The protagonist immediately asked if he was okay, but Fatty brushed off his concern, saying that the wound would heal just as quickly as it had appeared. However, the protagonist had already noticed a shortage of medical supplies in his inventory. He mentioned that he needed to register some medicines into the system and asked Fatty to wait for a while. Although a bit confused, Fatty nodded in agreement. Inside, the protagonist began searching for medical supplies and soon found a first aid kit. Looking at it, he realized just how essential medicine was in situations like these. The sight triggered a memory of his childhood, when his mother would bring him similar things. For a moment, he was lost in deep thought. When he opened the kit, he was surprised to see that it contained far more items than he had expected. Sitting down on the floor, he carefully examined each item, muttering to himself that he only had 4 inventory slots left, but still had many things to register. After thinking for a few seconds, an idea struck him. Rather than registering individual medicines, he would register the entire first aid kit. The system initiated the registration process and began scanning the kit. Soon, a system notification popped up, confirming that it was a standard first aid kit with a value of 77,330. Without hesitation, the protagonist accepted it. Back in the corridor, the protagonist returned to Fatty with the first aid kit. Fatty observed how genuinely concerned the protagonist was for him, despite barely knowing him. Kneeling down, the protagonist asked for permission to examine the goblin-inflicted wound. Fatty rolled up his pants, revealing a cut near his calf. Taking a pair of tweezers and some cotton, the protagonist warned him that he would disinfect the wound first. Carefully pressing the cotton onto the cut, he worked with great precision. Although the process was painful, Fatty reassured him that he could endure it. The system immediately notified the protagonist that Fatty's trust and loyalty levels had increased. After partially cleaning the wound, Fatty thanked him. The protagonist packed the first aid supplies back into the kit and expressed concern for the others. Standing up, he instructed Fatty to rest, mentioning that he had some important tasks to take care of. Fatty nodded, agreeing to follow his boss's orders. The protagonist closed his eyes, focused, and activated his ultimate eyes ability. His eyes turned pitch black as he scanned the building, allowing him to see everything happening inside. On the emergency stairs, Deoxu was desperately trying to escape the relentless goblins, while the archer girl provided cover with her impeccable aim, landing perfect headshots on the pursuers. Dong Jian and the glasses guy Geong attempted to help Deoxu create some distance from the goblins, but frustration crept in as they shouted that they could only handle one goblin at a time. They urged Deoxu to run faster. He pushed himself to his limits, but the goblins kept chasing him as if they never got tired. Behind them, the support team fired arrows from behind a reinforced barricade. The shots whizzed dangerously close to Deoxu, but struck the pursuing goblins with deadly precision. Finally, he reached the end of the stairs and leaped over the barricade. However, in a moment of carelessness, 2 goblins pounced onto his back, catching him off guard. Just then, Byungo lunged forward with a loud battle cry. With unwavering confidence, he struck at close range with his bow, taking down the goblins that had latched onto Deoxu. As he stood up, his face was serious, his blue eyes glowing with determination. Without hesitation, he jumped back into the stairwell, charging straight into the horde of goblins. Dong Jian watched in shock as Byungo's rapid and precise strikes thinned the goblin horde significantly. Both he and Deoxu were awestruck by his overwhelming advantage. The rest of the group, witnessing the scene, questioned if Byungo had always been this skilled in combat, remarking that his actions were outright insane. From a distance, the protagonist observed everything and commented that Byungo was doing exceptionally well. At that moment, a system screen appeared, displaying Byungo's status. His full name, Moon Byungo, was revealed, along with his title, Second Vessel. His trust level was at 55, and loyalty is solid 88. He possessed a teleportation ability, allowing him to move within his line of sight using mental energy. However, the cost increased based on the number of companions and the distance traveled. With a sly smile and his darkened eyes gleaming, the protagonist remarked that registering Moon as a vessel had been a brilliant decision. Meanwhile, in the stairwell, Byungo continued slaughtering goblins with deadly accuracy, each strike landing perfectly on their heads. Dong Jian turned to Geong, the bespectacled companion, and asked if the extension cord was ready. Geong firmly gripped it and confirmed its readiness. Next, Dong Jian asked about the water tank. Archer Hiren and their Batman-like ally confirmed it was set. Realizing the plan, Byungo sprinted toward the barricade as Dong Jian urged him to hurry. With a swift jump, Byungo landed safely behind it. For a moment, the goblins thought the group had escaped, but soon after, a massive water tank appeared above the barricade. As the tank tilted, water gushed down, flooding the emergency stairwell and drenching the goblins. Initially confused, the goblins assumed it was just a delaying tactic. However, Dong Jian seized a moment, shouting that this was the perfect opportunity. Geong flipped a switch, sending an electrical surge through the pre-laid wires in the flooded stairwell. The goblins were instantly electrocuted, their bodies convulsing violently as they were struck down. Just then, the protagonist's system screen notified him that he had successfully hunted several goblins of varying levels, including some at level 6 and 7. Another notification popped up, revealing that he had gained significant XP and a total of 334,464 won had been deposited into his account. Additionally, his skill level had increased and a new ability had been unlocked. However, while using his Ultimate Eyes ability, the protagonist suddenly felt an intense pressure surge through his body. A sharp pain spread across him, causing him to tremble in agony. As he focused, he noticed a purple energy radiating from within, gradually expanding outward. The energy spread across a vast area, enveloping the entire building, stairwell, parking lot, and even the goblins chasing his allies. It seemed to function as a scanning mechanism because the system screen immediately detected hostiles and declared that they would be eliminated. As the energy wave dissipated, agonized screams filled the air. The goblins' bodies deformed, twisting unnaturally before they exploded into nothingness, vanishing in the blink of an eye. The system then notified the protagonist once again that he had successfully defeated multiple goblins, including several level 6 and 7 enemies. Yet, despite the massacre, some goblins remained undeterred. They continued climbing the emergency stairwell, determined to chase down their prey. Among them, one goblin suddenly felt something strange, as if an unseen danger lurked nearby. A chilling sensation crawled down its spine. Slowly, it turned its head, only for its eyes to widen in sheer terror. A massive, shadowy figure loomed before him. As he focused, he realized it was a gigantic bear, its red, glowing eyes fixed on him as it advanced. Before the goblin could even process the situation, the bear let out a deafening roar that shook the entire area. The goblin didn't even have time to react before the beast's sharp teeth sank into his neck. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the surroundings, drawing the attention of the other goblins. They turned toward their fallen comrade, but it was already too late. The bear had killed him and was now rampaging through the group, slashing and biting with terrifying strength. One goblin fell, then another, followed by 2 more. The beast was unstoppable, tearing through its enemies with its powerful claws and fangs. However, the goblins quickly realized that they had an advantage in numbers. They surrounded the bear, attacking from all sides. Some clung to its back, while others tried to distract it from the front. The bear swiftly used its claws, knocking off the goblins clinging to its back, but in doing so, it left itself vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, the goblins sank their sharp teeth into its body. One clung near its eye, while another latched onto its back with a tight grip. The bear roared in agony, thrashing violently, throwing goblins aside with its massive paws. But the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming. The goblins targeted its eyes with their claws, ready to blind it completely, until in an instant, their heads all exploded at once. It was over in a single moment. This was likely the effect of the protagonist's domain expansion ability. The bear, initially terrified and confused, suddenly realized it was safe. At that moment, a system notification popped up, citizenship granted. Exhausted from the brutal fight, the bear's body began to shrink, twisting unnaturally as if manipulated by some unseen force. Slowly, human features emerged from its form, and within moments, the massive beast had fully transformed into a stunning woman. Her brown hair and eyes glowed with intensity, but her body was weakened from the fierce battle. She collapsed onto the pavement of the parking lot, surrounded by the lifeless bodies of the goblins. Meanwhile, the protagonist was still writhing in pain, his Ultimate Eyes ability causing unbearable strain, yet his vision remained as sharp as ever, scanning the surroundings like a surveillance system. His gaze landed on the unconscious woman, and a question formed in his mind. Who is she? The system instantly provided an answer. Her name was Oh Yanju, level 33, with 9 trust points and an A-rank ability. Werbear, a power that allowed her to transform into a beast, greatly enhancing her physical capabilities and regenerative properties. The protagonist's eyes widened in shock, an A-rank ability. The system continued, revealing that Dong Jian and Hiren had reached 50 trust points, unlocking their full loyalty. Meanwhile, Deoxu's loyalty had reached 30, making him eligible to be registered as a vassal. Without hesitation, the protagonist decided to register Deoxu as a vassal. Now at level 25, he had officially earned the title of the third vassal, possessing 52 trust points and 31 ability points. After his awakening, Deoxu had obtained a B-tier ability, Iron Knight, which granted him the power to summon a full steel armor set and a halberd. Deep in thought, the protagonist realized that a vassal's level was determined by the rank of their awakened ability. He recalled that Fatty had awakened a C-rank ability, Strength of the Gorilla, and had reached level 20. Meanwhile, Deoxu's B-rank ability had pushed him to level 25, while Byungo's A-rank ability, Teleportation, had boosted him to level 30. This led to an important question. Was ability selection completely random? If it was, then Byungo's A-rank ability must have been influenced by his loyalty. But if that were the case, Fatty, who had even higher loyalty than Byungo, should have received at least a B-rank ability instead of a C-rank one. The situation became even more confusing when he considered that Deoxu, with only 31 loyalty points, had somehow obtained a B-tier ability. This raised a critical issue. The conditions for obtaining higher-ranked abilities needed to be understood. It was a crucial question, especially since the number of vassals was limited to just 10. That meant selecting individuals with the highest potential ranking would be the most beneficial strategy. Then, another thought crossed his mind. Did it make a difference if someone awakened first and then became a vassal? The system provided one more piece of information. An awakened individual could freely move between staircases, hallways, and elevators. The protagonist decided it was time to take action. Moving toward the elevator, he activated his ultimate eyes ability as soon as he reached it. His gaze sharpened, scanning everything in detail. Meanwhile, a woman remained unconscious in the parking lot, lying near the lifeless bodies of the goblins. Without wasting time, he called for Fatty, who arrived immediately. He instructed him to bring the unconscious woman from the second floor of the parking lot to their floor. At the same time, the rest of the team was busy dismantling and recovering the materials used for the electric trap near the emergency staircases. Deoxu felt relieved after the sudden defeat of the goblins, but curiosity got the better of him. He questioned his teammates about why the goblins had exploded so abruptly. Gaeong speculated that it had to be someone's doing. Dongjan, who was now growing nervous, quickly realized that such a powerful skill could only belong to one person. There was no doubt in his mind. The protagonist had been behind it. A memory surfaced in Dong Jian's mind. When he had first met Fatty, he had described the protagonist as a mysterious individual. He also recalled how Fatty had once mentioned a hot bath that had left the girls astonished, and how their meals had been possible only because of the protagonist's ability. Connecting all these moments, Dong Jian felt even more uneasy. He was now certain that the terrifying skill belonged to none other than the protagonist. As Dong Jian wrapped the wires around his hands, his gaze fell on Byungo, and another realization struck him. Byungo had once been an introvert, someone completely different from who he had become after meeting the protagonist. Understanding the sheer extent of the protagonist's abilities, Dong Jian couldn't help but think that in this world, being saved by him was equivalent to being chosen by him. Meanwhile, the elevator reached the ground floor. Fatty wasted no time and ran toward the unconscious woman. Lifting her up quickly, he followed the given instructions and headed toward the 30th floor. The protagonist, using his ultimate eyes, observed everything like a surveillance system, ensuring that nothing escaped his sight. At that moment, a flashback began. A small toy car rolled across the parking lot as a child played with it, his face full of joy. His mother stood nearby, watching him with a warm smile. The boy excitedly called out to her, eager to show what he could do. But just as he stood up, waving at his mother, something emerged behind him. The mother's smile instantly vanished, her expression twisting into one of sheer horror. Terror gripped her as 3 monstrous goblins surrounded her innocent child, who remained blissfully unaware, still looking at her with happiness. Yunju, the mother, tried to react with all her strength, but she was not fast enough. The goblins attacked, and there was nothing she could do. She could only watch in helpless agony as her son's final moments burned into her memory, becoming a nightmare that would never fade. Now, only one thing remained, a small toy car, the last remnant of her child's presence. Suddenly, Yunju regained consciousness. Gasping, she was jolted awake by the painful memories that had haunted her. As her vision adjusted, she turned to her side and saw the protagonist calling her by name. Slowly, she sat up on the bed, clutching her head as a sharp pain throbbed inside. The protagonist extended his hand and introduced himself, expressing that he was glad to meet her. However, Yeonju ignored the introduction entirely and immediately demanded to know the truth. The protagonist remained silent for a moment, unsure of what she was referring to. But Yeonju quickly clarified. She wanted to know if he was responsible for making the goblins' heads explode. For a brief second, the protagonist froze. A faint tremor ran through his hand, but he clenched his fist tightly, steadied himself, and admitted the truth. He confirmed that it had indeed been his doing. As Yeonju processed his words, her mind raced. The realization of how powerful he truly was began to sink in. Someone who could annihilate an entire horde of goblins in an instant, and that too with such ease. What kind of person possessed such terrifying power? A thought struck her, one that wavered between fear and hope. If he could do that, then perhaps, just maybe, her body trembled as desperate thoughts flooded her mind. Then, unable to hold back any longer, she clasped her hands together and pleaded. With tears streaming down her face, she begged him. Just for one day, she wanted her child back. Just one more day. The protagonist looked at her, taking in her tear-filled eyes and the unbearable sorrow etched on her face. She was just a mother, a grieving woman who had lost her child in the cruelest way. Tears continued to spill as she sobbed, her voice breaking as she admitted how much she missed her son. Clenching his jaw, the protagonist felt a surge of anger rise within him. The mere thought of her losing her son to those vile goblins filled him with frustration. Yeonju wept uncontrollably, her words barely forming through the overwhelming grief. The protagonist stood there, motionless, as though frozen in place, his mind racing with possibilities. Was there really a way? Could something be done? Determined to find out, he attempted something through the system. He tried issuing a mission. The objective was to hunt down 1,000 goblins. There was no time limit, no failure penalty, and the reward was clear, the revival of the lost child. As he thought about the possibility, a wave of unease washed over him. Could this truly work? But before he could dwell on it, the system responded with a notification. The mission could not be issued. Frustration bubbled inside him as he realized that revival was beyond his current capabilities, no matter how much power he held. But then, something unexpected happened. Another system notification appeared. The reason the mission could not be issued wasn't because revival was impossible. It was due to insufficient funds. The system suggested that once the required funds were acquired, he could try again. The protagonist stood in shock, his mind struggling to process what he had just read. Did this mean it was actually possible? If he gathered enough money, could he truly bring someone back? Excitement surged within him as he demanded confirmation from the system. Was it really possible to revive someone as long as the necessary funds were available? Returning to the room, he found Yeonju still crying. He knew that he had no idea how much the cost of revival would be, but now that he had discovered the possibility, he couldn't just ignore it. Calling out to Yeonju, he got her attention. She quickly wiped her tears and looked up at him, her expression filled with desperation. With a serious tone, the protagonist informed her that there might be a way. A faint glimmer of hope flickered in Yeonju's eyes. Even without any guarantees, the mere chance of a possibility was enough to give her some relief. Still sobbing, she gripped the bedsheet tightly and asked if it was true or if he was just playing a cruel joke. The protagonist reassured her this was no joke. Something like this was far too serious for him to make light of. However, he admitted that it wouldn't be possible right away. Yeonju slowly nodded, understanding the weight of his words. The protagonist then added that he wasn't sure how long it would take, but there was definitely a way. Yeonju met his gaze, determination rising within her despite her grief. Without hesitation, she declared that she was willing to do whatever it took. She needed to know what had to be done. And with that, this episode comes to an end. If you want to see the next episode, then make sure to like this video and help us reach the 500 likes goal. Also, let me know in the comments what improvements you'd like to see. And yes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that as soon as the next part drops, you'll be the first to know. Also, there are plenty of manhwa recap videos on my channel, so definitely check them out. Alright then, see you in a new recap soon. Till then, bye-bye. Jaehyun has Dong Jeon's group now. He's got Moon Byung-go, Deoksu, and Fatty all powered up. That squad's already stacked, and if Yeonju joins in, a level 33 fighter, they'd be set to handle most monster threats. He figures the move now is to upgrade all 7 of his minions. With a small smile, he tells Yanju to get up so he can introduce her to the crew. Right after, Dong Jian steps in and introduces himself. Yanju responds politely, then casually mentions she saw him tossing baseballs to hunt goblins. Dong Jian freezes for a sec, not expecting her to know that. Then she turns to the archer girl, saying she remembers her too, saw her launching arrows at goblins. Archer girl's just as stunned and nervously asks how Yanju knows her. Yanju starts growling playfully, flashing her hands like claws and pretending to bite, teasing them for not recognizing her. Says they've already met. Diaksu, the archer, and Dong Jian all just stand there confused, unsure what's going on. Then Yanju starts shifting. Fur starts crawling up her arms, snout forming, full-on brown bear transformation happening right in front of them. Archer girl points at her mid-shift, stunned, saying this has to be the creature they saw in that alley earlier. Yanju awkwardly laughs it off, says it's not a beast, it's a bear, leaving the archer speechless. She explains she'd helped them during some of their goblin fights. They just didn't realize it. Dong Jian, staring at this massive bear in the room, says that their encounter wasn't random. The bear woman nods, saying anyone going against goblins is her ally. Just then, Jaehyun shows up and cuts into the convo, saying it's great they're already familiar. Face serious now, he tells them he's got something big to announce. After thinking things through, he's decided they're going to run the rescue op for Moon Byung-go's grandma tomorrow. The group's all ears as he lays it out. Goblin numbers are way down, so now's the best time to strike. Fatty's going to sit this one out though, he's injured. Jaehyun says he borrowed Fatty's room since Yanju kind of stole the bed. Then he drops the update. Yanju's officially joining the mission. She thanks him, a bit nervous, and greets the rest of the squad. With the meeting wrapped, Jaehyun tells everyone to prep for the next morning. Everyone's locked in, no hesitation. After that, Jaehyun pulls Diaksu and Moon Byung-go aside for a quick chat in the hallway. They're clearly uneasy, not knowing what's coming. He tells them to chill, it won't take long. Then CEO Jun drops the bomb, asking if they know why he called them. Both guys flinch, completely caught off guard. Diaksu stammers, saying he's not sure. Moon Byung-go steps up, guessing it's got something to do with the powers they just awakened. Jaehyun smirks and says yeah, it's about their powers. Then he breaks it down, both of them awaken this time. They're stunned, not expecting their leader to be this sharp. Jaehyun goes on. Moon Byung-go's ability is teleportation. That instantly hypes him up, ready to learn how to use it. Diaksu, on the other hand, gets something called Knight of Steel, and now he's real curious what that means. Jaehyun's face shifts to something more serious. He knows he needs to fully understand their new powers before sending them into the field. He pops open the system screen and checks their progress. He assigns a new mission to both, demonstrate their new powers within the next hour. If they succeed, their strength goes up. If not, they're sleeping in the hallway. The system locks it in. Jaehyun's kind of into these squad-building missions now. While he's thinking, Diaksu can't hold it anymore and calls out, super hyped, wanting to know if he really got a new power. Jaehyun just nods. Diaksu's energy shoots through the roof. He's pumped, snorts like an excited kid, then asks what Knight of Steel actually does. Jaehyun explains. It lets him summon a full steel armor set and a halberd. Before Diaksu can start overthinking it, a sudden flash of blue light pops beside him. Moon Byung-go just activated his teleport. One blink and he's gone. Diaksu's jaw drops, completely shook at how fast Moon picked it up. Jaehyun and Diaksu exchange big-eyed stares, still processing. Then Moon Byung-go reappears in the hallway, landing a bit wobbly. He looks at his hands like he just touched magic, face lit with pure joy. Fist clenched, he says that with this power, saving his grandma is going to be easy. The system sends Jaehyun a notice. Moon's trust and loyalty levels just went up. Overwhelmed with emotion, Moon Byung-go bows deep to Jaehyun, thanking him for everything. It catches Jaehyun off guard for a sec. He tells him to hold up and think things through. Just because the power worked once doesn't mean he's ready. Going to his grandma's place now isn't an option. Moon Byung-go, a little lost, listens as Jaehyun explains. There's no solid proof he can fully control his ability yet. Maybe it worked out of luck. That hits Moon hard, and he lowers his head, realizing the rescue has to wait. Jaehyun comforts him, saying they'll first test the max range of his teleport and figure out if spamming it causes any drawbacks. Moon Byung-go nods quietly, already preparing himself. While they were chatting, something weird caught their eye down the corridor. They turned and spotted a knight decked out in shiny steel armor, swinging around a massive halberd like it weighed nothing. Deox's jaw dropped. Dude looked straight up OP. He was hyped, instantly vibing with how badass the weapon looked on him. Then boom, the system pinged Jaehyun with a message saying Deoxu's trust and loyalty had gone up. While Deoxu was busy playing around with the halberd, Jaehyun called Moon Byung-go over and pointed toward a nearby building. He wanted him to try teleporting to it. Moon Byung-go locked eyes on the spot, doing mental math, figuring out the distance, and if his stamina could take it. This was only his second attempt, after all. He finally looked over and said he'd give it a shot. The system dropped a new mission on him. Teleport to the rooftop of Building 113 within 3 minutes. Reward, teleportation upgrade. Penalty, sleeping outside. No pressure. Moon Byung-go focused up, took a stance straight out of Dragon Ball, and started channeling his energy. Deoxu hyped him up from the sidelines, yelling support like a proud sidekick. With everything aligned in his head, Moon Byung-go opened his eyes, and bam, he vanished in a flash of blue light. The power burst was so wild that Deoxu had to brace himself in the shockwave. Seconds later, Moon Byung-go landed on the rooftop, full-on superhero pose. But the moment of glory didn't last. His face twisted in pain, eyes rolled white, and he dropped like a stone. From the roof, he waved at the crew, yelling that the mission was a success. The system confirmed it, and Jaehyun let out a deep sigh, proud of how quickly he'd picked up the ability. Moon Byung-go smiled like a kid, riding that high. Then, out of nowhere, he passed out cold right there on the rooftop. Both Jaehyun and Deoxu froze. Vibes went from pumped to panic real quick. Jaehyun wasted no time. He summoned a servant and brought Moon Byung-go's limp body back to the corridor. They laid him on a bed, hoping he'd bounce back fast. Deoxu, visibly stressed, asked if he'd be alright. Jaehyun scanned the system readout and nodded. Just knocked out. The teleport drained him hard. With enough rest, he'd be fine. The system backed it up. Byung-go was healthy, just in deep sleep. Jaehyun added that it probably happened because his body's still adapting to the new skill. Deoxu breathed easier, relieved. Then Jaehyun hit him with a curveball. It was Deoxu's turn now. The system pulled up a new mission. Do 100 push-ups and 100 squats in full steel armor. Time limit, 10 minutes. Reward, buff strength. Penalty, outdoor snooze. No time to complain, Deoxu dropped down and got to work. Steel armor weighed a ton. Every rep burned. Sweat streamed down his face, splattering on the floor as he powered through. He didn't stop. He gritted his teeth and pushed through the squats. When it was done, he stood up like a warrior who just won a boss fight, chest heaving, yelling that the mission was complete. The system confirmed it. Kong Deoxu had pulled it off. Breathing like he just ran a marathon, he leaned against the wall, catching his breath while Jaehyun watched, straight up impressed. With a body like that, sturdy, built, relentless, it's no wonder he crushed the challenge. Suddenly, the system flashed something brand new. Jaehyun narrowed his eyes, reading the odd notification. As he scrolled through it, Deoxu asked if that was really all. Jaehyun gave a warm nod, said he did great and could go rest. The system finished calculating and updated the stats. Deoxu's strength slightly up. Turning to Jaehyun, Deoxu thanked him for all the help, genuine gratitude in his voice. Jaehyun, still processing the surprise notification, could feel the shift in his own body. Energy flowed through him, fists clenched tight, power buzzing under the skin. He looked down, smirked, and muttered that this reward just changed the game. Next day, deep in some shady alley in Busan, Dong Jian was screaming his lungs out, telling everyone to run. The crew scattered like roaches, trying to escape the goblin swarm chasing them down. But Deoxu didn't budge. He turned around, face full of rage, took one good look, and made his move. The goblins, laser-focused on the chase, got flashbanged by a blinding light right in their faces. As they squinted through it, they saw a giant dude in steel armor wielding a massive halberd. Deoxu didn't wait. He rushed in and skewered the nearest goblin in one brutal strike. Then came the combos, clean diagonal slashes cutting down goblins like weeds. But the little monsters weren't backing off. Fueled by blind rage, they pushed forward. Deoxu prepped for a straight-up brawl, but those slimy things switched tactics, swerving past him to hit the squishier backline. Then, out of nowhere, a volley of arrows started nailing goblins in the head like target practice. Deoxu spun around and saw Moon Byung-go standing there with a bow, told him he'd cover the back, so Deoxu should focus on the front. With a cocky smirk, Deoxu locked eyes with the remaining goblins and turned back. The goblins froze, clearly spooked. Slowly, they started backing away. Deoksu, pissed, shouted after them, daring them to come back. But just as they turned tail, a massive shadow dropped in front of them. The bear girl had arrived, eyes glowing red like a demon. Her dramatic entrance was no joke. She'd been waiting in ambush, ready for this exact moment. The goblins knew they were screwed. They dropped to the ground, full of regret and despair. No one held back. Moon Byung-go's arrows were sharp and deadly. Deoksu's halberd crushed every goblin in his way, and the bear girl shredded through them with her claws like it was nothing. They wiped the whole squad. Dong Jian spotted the opening and yelled to Moon Byung-go to dip. Byung-go didn't waste a second. He bolted toward his grandma's house. While running, he shouted back a quick thanks, genuinely grateful for the backup. Meanwhile, Jaehyun got a system ping. It said Moon Byung-go completed his mission. Another pop-up appeared, starting the reward evaluation. Back in his room, Jaehyun sat there with his ultimate eyes activated, munching on cup noodles, watching the screen. The system chimed again, evaluation complete. The dude just bagged 132,966 won, straight into the Shutin's wallet. Jaehyun froze mid-bite. Actual cash this time. He took a second, then kept eating, thinking things through. Last time Deoksu got strength as a reward, so now the rewards seemed randomized. Made sense. Harder missions, better loot. Another chime confirmed Moon Byung-go had finished all his missions for the day. The system instantly started tallying the rest. Still slurping noodles, Jaehyun cracked a grin. Time to see what he pulled. Boom. System said he hit the jackpot. For anyone clueless, it explained that a jackpot is the biggest prize, like in slots or lotteries. Jaehyun went still, cup noodles stuck halfway down his throat, eyes glued to the screen. Then the reward dropped, a skill point. Jaehyun smirked. Perfect. He could now pick exactly where to drop it. Back on the street, Moon Byung-go was flying through the city, blue aura trailing behind him. His body was tired, sweat dripping, but his brain was in full panic mode. He was thinking nonstop about his grandma. The house came into view, a tiny, plain one, totally open to monster attacks. No barriers, nothing. Didn't even hesitate. He dashed in, straight up stormed through the place, calling for his grandma. Room to room, heart pounding. Then he hit the bedroom. His eyes widened. There she was, curled up on a futon, sound asleep. Calm as ever. He crept in, slowly placing a hand on her shoulder. Whispered her name. She stirred, blinked slowly, voice weak and sleepy. Asked who was there, reaching for him with shaky hands. Then she recognized him. In that second, the air hit different. Moon Byung-go's throat tightened, eyes blurred. He lost it. Full breakdown. Hugged her like his life depended on it, sobbing into her shoulder. Said sorry over and over, heart cracked open. She just smiled, patted his back, called him brave. Said she knew he'd come. Right then, another system message popped up in front of Jaehyun. Moon Byung-go's loyalty hit 100. He officially became a vassal. That bumped the total number of vassal slots up. Jaehyun squinted at the update. So apparently, when someone trusts you enough, you unlock more slots. The screen showed current vassals. Choi Hyungjin aka Fatty at level 20, Moon Byung-go at level 30, and Kong Deoksu at 25. He scratched his chin, so he could level them up too. Tapped the plus sign beside Byung-go's name. Boom, new window. Not enough cash to level up. Then it showed the price. 100 million won. Jaehyun's jaw dropped. Fist clenched. That's what it costs for just one level up. Dude was fuming. Rubbed his temples, punched the table lightly. Then sighed and whispered under his breath that he'd make it up to Byung-go by grinding emissions every single day. Right then, a sudden noise yanked Jaehyun out of his thoughts, instincts flaring. The elevator was moving. His brow creased. His squad was still out there, busy fighting goblins. With narrowed eyes, he activated Ultimate Eyes. Pupils went dark. Vision stretched across the whole building. Outside one of the apartment doors stood two people, a guy carrying a box and a girl knocking, asking if anyone was inside. Something felt off. Their faces didn't scream friendly, and those dark-eyed bags weren't just from lack of sleep. Jaehyun clocked the apartment immediately. Fatty's wife lived there. Inside, she hesitated. Hearing the knocking and voices, she cautiously called out. Figuring it was urgent, she made a snap call and opened the door. The girl greeted her with a bright smile, introduced herself as Kim Dabin, then pointed to the guy beside her, calling him her younger brother, Kim Mi-ho. Said they lived in Unit 1701. Fatty's wife, curious, asked why they were there. The girl sighed and said she needed help, leaving Fatty's wife a little confused. Then out of nowhere, the girl burst out, practically yelling that she just wanted to take a shower. Fatty's wife stood there, totally thrown. Out of everything she expected, that was the last. Still processing, she blinked, trying to make sense of it. The girl nodded eagerly, saying that's all she wanted. Just a quick shower. Relieved it wasn't anything wild, Fatty's wife chuckled and waved them in. Easy request, why not? The two stepped inside, thanking her. The guy still had the box on his shoulder and asked where to put it. She asked what was in it. He set it down, and the girl said it was just canned food and a few supplies. He opened it up, revealing exactly that. Canned stuff, nothing shady. Fatty's wife smiled, told them it wasn't necessary, and thanked them anyway. The girl brushed it off, saying it's no big deal. After all, she just barged into a stranger's place with a weird request. Right as she said that, something off to the side caught her eye. Her gaze shifted to the wall lined with bows and Deoxu's baseball bat. She asked if those belonged to the apartment's owner. Fatty's wife wasn't expecting that, but after a short pause, shook her head. Said they didn't belong to the apartment's actual owner. The real ones live in another unit. But it's a messy situation that'd take too long to explain. The girl nodded, saying she understood. Watching the whole scene, Jaehyun deactivated his ability and thought to himself they didn't seem like bad people. He looked out the window, muttering that he'd check it out later. Then added that he needed to talk to them. Maybe ask if they'd help rescue survivors from the nearby apartments. Before he could think too hard, a system notification popped up. Jaehyun blinked. The message read, "You have successfully hunted a red tiger." Another notification followed. He gained a ton of XP. Then boom, 397,832 won dropped into his wallet. And finally, one more message hit. His skill level increased, and he unlocked a new ability. Jaehyun stared, eyes wide. He hadn't even been watching for that long. How did all this go down so fast? Without missing a beat, he forced himself to reactivate Ultimate Eyes, pushing the ability to the edge. The battlefield was still a mess. Dong Jian, the archer, and the dude with glasses were all slightly banged up. Lying in front of them was a dead red tiger. Next to it, the bear woman was down bad, struggling to even move. The rest of the crew stood there, frozen, not sure what to do next. Jaehyun observed, but unease crept in. His gut twisted, chest heavy, as a wave of dread hit. His body jolted with pain, muscles spasming, cold sweat pouring down. The pressure in his chest was insane. He groaned, barely keeping upright. Then, another system message came in. You have discovered individuals who are eligible for citizenship. Through the pain, he barely processed it. So there were still people out there without citizenship. His breath was rough, but he managed to speak. System, grant them citizenship. A new message flashed instantly. A list of names popped up. Citizenship granted. Then another alert. You've officially reached 50 citizens. One more update followed. XP and cash gain for all citizens just got boosted by 100%. But that wasn't even the last surprise. Another message rolled in. Since the number of citizens hit a milestone, all of them had unlocked a new ability, Power of Trust. Jaehyun stared at the words, brain spiraling. Power of Trust. That name sat heavy in his mind. Even with all the confusion, his thoughts drifted back to the battlefield. He clenched his jaw. Did anyone get seriously hurt? Back on the streets, Moon Byung-go's barely holding it together, bruised, breath ragged, still hauling his grandma on his back like a damn tank. The rest of the crew's busted up too, scrambling to cover Deoxu while he carries the injured Werbear chick. Jaehyun clocks the whole scene and instantly knows this mess is way worse than he thought. And of course, out of everyone, it had to be Yeonju who's badly hurt. As they're making a run for it, a goblin mob appears out of nowhere, blocking the way right in front of the two hauling the wounded. The rear squad wastes no time. Arrows fly, goblins drop. The archer peeps one crazy clean shot from the dude with glasses, and damn, near as a double take. She blurts out how he pulled that off with one shot, but he just looks stunned, saying he has no clue. While they keep moving, the archer suddenly notices something weird. Her body feels lighter. Dong Jian, running beside her, agrees. Turns out he's not even out of breath anymore. Meanwhile, back with Jaehyun, the system finally drops a bomb. The ability Power of Trust is a passive skill that buffs all stats by X%, where X equals each citizen's trust level. Jaehyun stares at the message, dumbfounded. This skill wasn't even in the system before, and now it's cracked. Then it hits him. Every teammate he's got has at least 50 trust points. That means stamina, strength, reflexes, everything just jumped by 50% naturally. At the same time, Moon Byung-go's face shifts like something clicked. He gets the hunch that this is Jae-hyun's doing. The system sends another ping. Both girls have passed 30 loyalty points. That makes them eligible to be registered as vassals. Jae-hyun doesn't hesitate and tells the system to register them right away. The moment it goes through, both girls freeze up, their bodies jolting as power floods in. Then, system update, Kim Gaeong, the archer, hits level 20 and unlocks a new skill. Piercing. Yu Hyren hits level 25 and unlocks skilled poisonous mist. Powered up and ready, the two spin around to face the goblins tailing them. Gaeong steadies her aim and launches an arrow. Usually, she nails headshots every time, but this one's on another level. The arrow cuts through one goblin, bounces, and pierces multiple others like paper. She furrows her brows, confused. The system answers, C-rank skill, piercing, powered by mental strength to penetrate through targets. Jae-hyun, arms crossed, watches it all unfold. Now that he knows the ability specs, he immediately commands the system to create a mission. A new quest appears. Gaeong must use piercing to take out 10 goblins in 10 minutes. Reward: boosted piercing proficiency. Penalty: fatigue. While processing this, Jae-hyun shifts focus to the other ability. Unlike piercing, poisonous mist is way more dangerous. It's a B-rank skill that, if used wrong, could put the whole team at risk. He sighs and decides to deal with it later. Suddenly, the system throws another notification. Mission cleared. Gaeong just wiped out 10 goblins. Another alert follows. Daily mission limit reached. Jae-hyun isn't impressed. The reward this time was mid. But now that the fight's cooling off, he figures it's time to check on the citizens on the lower floors. Activating ultimate eyes, he scans the halls. His gaze locks onto a man casually walking toward the bathroom, hands in pockets. Jae-hyun notes the guy's smart, gathering water early before it runs out. He shifts again, spotting a couple prepping to eat. They're managing on their own already, food and water handled. Then something catches his eye. Off in a room, a woman lying still on the floor. No hesitation. Jae-hyun sprints. System flashes another update. Kim Do-jung. Trust level, 18. Ability, healing awakened. His heart pounds. A healer. He locks eyes on the unconscious woman, reads the skill description. She can heal injuries. The urgency hits him like a truck. She's their first healer, and they desperately need her. Without wasting a second, Jae-hyun bolts forward. He's not letting her slip away. After sprinting through the halls, Jae-hyun finally pulls up to the door of the room where the woman had collapsed. Still catching his breath, he composes himself and grabs the doorknob. He tries turning it slowly, hoping it'll just open up. But nope, the thing's locked from the inside. His face drops into a frown as it hits him that he's stuck outside with no way in. Shoulders sag a bit, frustration bubbling up. He takes a step back, already thinking a plan B. Then something weird happens. His eyes go wide as the system pings him with a new notification. Total randomness, or maybe fate, just handed him a fresh skill. The system drops the info. It's called Invisible Hand, and it's sitting at level 1. Description says he can summon and control an invisible hand whenever he wants. Reading that, something sparks inside him. His fists clench as he accepts this wild, unreal power now in his corner. Quietly, he sends out a mental thanks for the unexpected gift. He shuts his eyes for a sec, locking his focus on the door. Visualizing the lock giving in like it's bending to his will. When he opens them, boom, floating in front of him is a tool. A sturdy bolt cutter, glowing with the same weird energy he started relying on. Without hesitation, he grabs it. The cold weight in his hand makes it real. No delay, he positions it at the lock and squeezes. A loud snap breaks the silence, and just like that, the lock's done. One push and he's inside. The room's dim, and right away his eyes land on her, lying there, not moving. Now that he's closer, her stillness gives the whole place an eerie vibe. He drops to his knees beside her, eyes full of concern. He gives her shoulder a gentle nudge, his tone calm but firm, urging her to wake up. No response. Dread starts creeping in. He checks her for injuries, scanning carefully. But what catches his attention instead is her face. Pale as hell, lips dry and cracked. The signs scream dehydration, and it's bad. His brain kicks into overdrive. This level of dehydration is dangerous. She needs help ASAP. He looks around, trying to find something that might stabilize her. His eyes scan every corner. Then something off catches his attention. There's water in the room. but she's still like this. It doesn't add up. The contradiction sends chills down his spine. He glances at her again, brushing off the confusion. Now's not the time to get lost in thoughts. Priority is saving her. An idea forms. He opens the system interface. It might actually work. He assigns her a mission, a simple one: breathe. Reward: instant recovery from dehydration. The system processes it, charging 10,000 won. Within seconds, a soft blue glow surrounds her. Jaehyun watches closely, heart pounding. Then, faint breaths escape her lips. Weak but there. She's waking up. Her eyelids twitch, finally fluttering open. Her vision's fogged, just a blurry silhouette in front of her. A voice reaches her ears, asking if she's awake. Her mind tries to make sense of it all. Her voice, shaky and confused, asks who he is and why he's in her room. Jaehyun straightens up, meets her hazy gaze. He says he lives in the unit just above hers. She blinks, still groggy. It doesn't fully register. Still lying there, she questions how he got inside. Jaehyun sees no point in hiding anything. He tells her he saw she wasn't okay and broke the door to get in. Silence lingers between them. Then, her breath catches. Her face changes as realization sets in. Tears stream down, no words. Just quiet crying, like everything she bottled up finally exploded. She tries to wipe her face, shoulders trembling as she pulls herself together. Jaehyun watches her, instantly sensing something deeper is wrong. It's not just exhaustion, not just confusion. He takes a breath, says her name, Kim Di-jung, his voice steady, soft. As she pushes herself up, still shaking, he continues. He apologizes for barging into her life like this, but tells her he needs her help. There's urgency in his words. It makes her freeze, even in her distress. Now sitting upright, eyes glossy with tears, she looks at him. Her lips are dry, barely moving as she listens. Jaehyun doesn't waste time. He explains, one of his allies is badly hurt. The words hit her slowly. She turns to face him, trying to process what he just said. Silence stretches. She stares, confused. His ally, seriously injured. He's telling her this. She doesn't get it. She doesn't even know this guy. Panic builds inside her. He wants her to save someone. Her. It feels unreal, like he picked the wrong person. Then, out of nowhere, something hits her. How does he even know she's a nurse? Her breath freezes. She never told him. No one in the building should know. The unease creeps in. But somehow, the way he talks, the way he asks for help, it doesn't feel threatening. There's no menace. Just desperate sincerity. Still unsure, still guarded, she makes a call. She needs to see it for herself. Slowly, she turns fully toward him. Suspicion still lingers, but she swallows it down. Her voice is weak, but solid. She agrees to help. She asks where she's supposed to go. Jaehyun doesn't respond right away. He opens the system interface, fingers moving fast. He tells her to wait a sec. He assigns a mission. Heal the injured were Bear. Yeonju. 1 hour time limit. Reward listed as improved. No penalties. Reading the details, Jaehyun's eyes sharpen. He's going to save Yeonju no matter what. He looks back at Di-jung and tells her to rest for now. He'll handle the injured guy himself. Then casually tells her to grab something for her dehydration. But before any of that even sinks in, something absolutely wild happens. Out of nowhere, oranges just start popping into existence midair. Her eyes go wide, breath hitching as bright, juicy oranges literally fall out of the void and hit the floor in front of her. She just stares, mouth half open, completely frozen. Then reality slaps her back, and with a shaky hand, she points at the fruit scattered on the floor. Her head spinning, trying to figure out what the hell she just witnessed. Jaehyun catches on real quick that this looks beyond weird to someone like her, throws a quick apology her way. But that's not enough. Her heart's thudding hard, watching more oranges rain down from nothingness. The whole thing feels straight up cursed. Like, what kind of man even is this? Before she can spiral deeper, Jaehyun just turns around. There's this smug little smirk on his face, and he tells her he'll explain later once things settle down. Then he dips, leaving her still kneeling there, still mentally glitching. Before stepping out, he drops one last reminder. Tells her she's still not at full strength. Her body needs rest, and he straight up insists she take care of herself first. The moment he's gone, Di-jung lowers her gaze to the chaotic orange pile. Slowly, she picks one up. The texture, the weight, the cold against her fingers, it's all real. She gives it a small squeeze, half expecting it to disappear like a glitch, but it stays solid. A chill crawls up her spine. She mutters under her breath, still trying to convince herself this isn't some fever dream. Because this kind of thing just doesn't happen. Meanwhile, Jaehyun is already on the move. Dude wastes zero time. Heads straight back to his apartment with fast, focused steps. Mind locked in on helping his people outside as soon as he can. The system hits him with a ping. Healer's trust level just went up. He pauses for a sec, staring at the notification. It's clear she didn't trust him before, but now something's changed, even if just a bit. Still not enough to let his guard down. Trust takes time, and he gets it. If someone had broken into his place randomly, he'd probably react the same. He shakes it off and steps out onto the balcony, looking down at the street. His thoughts are heavy, but then everything freezes. Blood goes ice cold. Charging through the street below is a massive red tiger. Beastly, furious, lightning fast, and it's chasing his crew. His chest tightens as he spots his allies, sprinting like their lives depend on it. The fear in their movements says it all, but the monster's closing in, its fangs gleaming like death itself. The damn thing locks eyes on them, body moving with terrifying precision. It's not just a threat anymore. It's full-on predator mode. Jaehyun's head spins with panic. This is way past dangerous. This is straight-up slaughter incoming. Down below, chaos is popping off. The red tiger prowls like a demon, every step dripping fear into the squad's hearts. They're running wild, not even daring to look back. Survival mode fully kicked in. In the middle of the chaos, Hyren, the poison girl, fumbles. Her foot rolls weird, pain shoots up her leg, and she crashes hard. Her scream cuts through everything. Archer and Dong Jian instantly stop, faces twisted in panic, calling out to her like she's slipping through their fingers. Hyren grits her teeth, trying to move, trying to fight through the agony, but her body's basically shutting down. Exhaustion hits like a wall. She can't move, no matter how much she wants to. Archer's voice cracks through the air, screaming for her. Meanwhile, the red tiger's already coiled up, eyes locked on her like it's savoring the kill. It lunges just as she manages to stagger up, completely unaware how close it's gotten. Her mind's off somewhere else, maybe clinging to a last-ditch idea, maybe just in denial. And then she turns. That 1 second of eye contact is all it takes. The truth slams into her. The beast is right there, and it's already too late. The hopelessness settles into her bones. She stops fighting it, stands frozen, bracing herself for the end, ready to be torn apart. And then, flash, violet smoke. She's gone. The tiger's jaws snap on thin air. A low growl rips through its throat, eyes burning with pure confusion. It doesn't get it. 1 second she was there, the next gone. The failed kill pisses it off even more, throwing the beast in a full rage mode. Right then, Hyren popped back into reality, dazed, drenched in sweat, and gasping like she just ran through hell. Her brain was glitching, trying to process whatever the hell just happened. Felt like she died or something, maybe even crossed into the afterlife. But the pain in her body said otherwise, sharp, raw, and way too real. That's when her eyes landed on him. Jaehyun, standing there, staring at her like he just yanked her back from the edge. It was way too close. One blink slower, and she'd be toast. The weight of that hit him hard. Hyren, still shaking like a leaf, looked up at him but didn't say a word. She was done, emotionally and physically. Just outside, the others were still in chaos mode, running for their damn lives. Jaehyun inhaled deeply, tried to reset his brain. At least he bought them a little breathing room. One less person in immediate danger meant the rest had a sliver of hope to escape. Then boom, his system screen lit up. A fresh alert. He just found people who met the criteria for citizenship. The system straight up asked if he wanted to approve it. He didn't even get to process that before something shifted in the corner of his eye. Moon Byung-go appeared out of thin air, teleporting right into the apartment with his grandma in his arms. Dude was panicked, breathing hard, but still holding on tight to the old lady. He turned to Jaehyun, eyes pleading, silently begging him to protect her. Jaehyun glanced at both of them, saw the fear in Byung-go's eyes, but his own mind was stuck on something more pressing. He raised his hand, signaling Byung-go to wait. There was bigger shit going down. Byung-go opened his mouth, ready to argue, to demand answers, but when he saw the look on Jaehyun's face, he shut it. The seriousness in his eyes made it clear. Whatever was happening now was beyond what he could handle. He just nodded, understanding that Grandma wasn't top priority right now. Down on the streets, the red tiger was still on the hunt, locked onto the fleeing group like a beast possessed. It wasn't backing off, not even a little. Its killer instinct was dialed all the way up. Jae-hyun clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay locked in. He had no choice. He activated his new skill, Invisible Hand, and made the call. That tiger had to die. No other option. Meanwhile, the archer, Dong Jian, and Togi-ai, still dragging the busted-up bear, kept sprinting. But the damn tiger was catching up no matter how hard they ran. Dong Jian threw a quick look over his shoulder, stomach twisting into a knot. If this kept going, they were going to get wrecked. He had to step up. No thinking, just instinct. Dong Jian skidded to a stop, stomped his foot down, and gripped one of his baseballs like his life depended on it. His heart thundered in his chest as he pulled back his arm, channeling every ounce of power he had. A faint blue light started glowing around him, getting stronger with every second. He chucked that ball with everything he had. It cut through the air like a damn bullet. For a second, hope flickered. Maybe that would land. But nah. The tiger dodged like it had hacks on. A nasty growl tore through the air. The red tiger lifted its head and let out a roar that shook the streets, loud and violent, flexing its dominance. The archer screamed for Dong Jian to run, her voice shaking with terror. But it was already too late. The tiger locked eyes on him, fangs bared, claws ready. Dong Jian gritted his teeth. He knew there was no outrunning it now. But he had one play left, one shot at doing something right. He yelled at the others to keep running and, without flinching, sprinted in the opposite direction. If he could drag the tiger away, even if it meant dying, then maybe they'd get out alive. His lungs burned, legs screaming, but he didn't stop. Deep down, he knew this was his final run. Still, he pushed forward. As he neared a parking lot, he silently hoped that goblins or some random monster would show up and draw the tiger's attention. But that thing was still right on him. It was clear now, this really was the end. While running, he risked one last glance back. His breath caught in his throat. The tiger's monstrous fangs were inches away, massive and sharp as hell. No surviving that. Their eyes locked, and in that split second, both of them understood this was it. No second chances. Just when everything seemed hopeless, when he was fully bracing for death, something wild happened. A purple force pulsed into existence, snapping around the red tiger's neck like a whip. No warning. It coiled tight, fast as lightning. Then it yanked hard. The tiger's head got slammed into the pavement with bone-cracking force. The ground straight up shattered from the impact, debris flying everywhere. The tiger snarled in rage, thrashing like a beast possessed. It tried to dig in, claw the ground, do anything to fight back. But that invisible force didn't care. It just kept pulling, lifting the tiger off the ground like a toy. The purple energy squeezed tighter, choking the life out of the monster. It was obvious. This wasn't nature. Someone was doing this. And Dong Jian, still frozen in shock, knew exactly who it was. No doubt, that was Jae-hyun's power. A few moments later, the archer chick and the glasses dude pulled up, totally out of breath from sprinting the whole damn way. They were freaked out, thinking something happened to Dong Jian. But the scene that greeted them had both just standing there, stunned. Their eyes went wide, dead-ass shocked, watching the red tiger still squirming, its body hanging midair, getting the life choked out of it by some freaky, invisible force. While the archer was processing the madness, a system screen popped up in front of her, glowing faintly in the dim surroundings. She froze for a sec, then locked her eyes on the text. Her whole vibe shifted. Her eyes shot open, brain clearly running a mile a minute as the info hit her. But then, after one long breath, she calmed down, steadying herself. No hesitation, no drama. She faced her crew and stepped forward like she meant business. Up above, Jae-hyun was perched at his lookout spot, eyes sharp and calculating, watching everything go down. No need for him to jump in anymore. His part was done. Now it was all on Gaeong, the archer, to finish the job. If she landed the last hit, he'd get 4 times the loot. Easy math. Down below, the red tiger was still trapped and struggling hard, gasping for breath and losing its mind. But it was already game over. The archer knew what this meant, and she wasn't about to rush it. This was the shot, her most important one yet. The tiger's burning eyes locked onto hers, full of pure desperation. It was begging silently, hunting for some last scrap of hope. But she wasn't moved, not even a little. Her face was ice cold. No pity left for this sorry excuse of a monster. She pulled back her bowstring, channeling this wild blue energy into her arrow. The pressure was insane, air literally vibrating around her. Then boom, she let it fly. The arrow ripped through the air like vengeance itself, tearing through the night. The second it landed, Jaehyun got a system ping. You just bagged a level 28 red tiger. XP gains loaded. And, yup, Korean 1623117776 just hit your shut-in wallet. As the tiger's lifeless body hit the dirt, another notification popped up. Team trust and loyalty went up. And right after that, another message hit. Dong Jion's loyalty hit 30. He now qualifies to become a vassal. Jaehyun cracked a smug smile. Everything went down exactly how he mapped it out. He gave himself a nod before tapping accept on Dong Jion's vassal registration. A few moments later, the scene cut to another part of the building where someone was being patched up. It was the healer, the same woman who had collapsed earlier from total exhaustion. Now she was back on her feet, hands glowing faintly as she poured her energy into the injured. Wounds closed up fast under her touch, disappearing without even leaving scars. Her first priority was Yeonju. Her body had been torn up badly in that nasty clash with the red tiger. Jaehyun watched from a distance, realizing just how insanely lucky they all were to have a healer on their side. Dong Jion came stumbling in, still wheezing for air. Wasting no time, Jaehyun demanded to know what the hell had gone down below, especially why those red tigers had shown up. Dong Jion, his voice tired but thankful, explained that the spot where Moon Byung-go's grandma's house used to be was basically red tiger turf. They'd killed one, but another had rolled up right after, proving the place was way deadlier than they had assumed. Jaehyun mulled it over. It made sense. There was never any reason to think goblins were the only creeps crawling around here. And, come to think of it, there weren't even goblins in this part of the area. That meant those little bastards had probably already taken over the nearby buildings. If Grandma had stayed inside, she would have been toast. The only reason she was alive right now was because she'd been sitting in red tiger territory without knowing it. Jaehyun let out a long breath and shook his head. The amount of dumb luck at play here was straight up wild. Then, another system notification popped up showing Kim Gaeong's quest results. 73,312 won had been used for it. The healer sighed in relief once she saw her task had gone through. Seeing her reaction, Jaehyun stepped up and told her she did a solid job. But she quickly waved it off, saying all she wanted was to finally go home. Before anyone could answer, a voice cut in. Wait up. Fatty finally reappeared after lying low and recovering. Scratching the back of his head, he looked awkward as hell before blurting out that he wasn't cool with everyone just piling into his apartment all the time. Jaehyun turned toward him, and for the first time, he really noticed just how many people were crammed in here. Everyone else clearly thought the same, their faces stuck between amusement and awkwardness. Jaehyun chuckled, calming the vibe, and reassured him it wasn't a problem. He'd already lined things up. Unit 2901 was empty, fully stocked with electricity, water, and all the basics. They were free to move in. The group went nuts with joy at that announcement. He then called out to Dabin, telling her units 2101 and 2102 were also empty. He promised he'd make sure electricity flowed into those units too, and asked her to spread the word to the other survivors so they'd know they could use the bathrooms and showers there. Dabin and her brother glanced at each other before nodding, saying they'd handle it. Then Jaehyun added that out of those two units, Dabin and her brother could claim one for themselves. That floored them. Their jaws practically hit the ground. Jaehyun stayed calm, saying the other survivors could take the remaining unit. Once that was settled, Jaehyun shifted gears. He said he had a favor to ask. Dabin, still stunned, told him to spit it out. Without flinching, Jaehyun said he wanted her to act as the messenger between him and the rest of the survivors. She froze, brows furrowed, and repeated it like she couldn't believe it. Did he really just call her messenger? Jaehyun's face stayed dead serious as he confirmed it. He then broke down the plan. She was to tell everyone that whichever team killed 100 goblins the fastest would score themselves an empty unit. On top of that, the winning team would get stacked benefits, essentials, unlimited power, water, gas, and food. Basically a full survival package with comfort included. But Jaehyun wasn't done. He explained that if a team agreed to take in 10 extra survivors, those people would also share in the same perks. For a moment, the air got thick, heavy with tension. Everyone felt the weight of what he was putting on the table. Then, almost like he expected it, Jaehyun added one last note. She needed to tell them that the distribution of benefits could take longer depending on which floor their new unit was on. As he studied their reactions, Jaehyun realized the truth. Every move from here on out was a chess game, and he was the one moving the pieces. Only those who proved their worth were going to get the resources they needed. Out of nowhere, a system notification popped up in front of Jaehyun. an official mission to wipe out 10 goblins. The quest came with a brutal 168-hour timer, some mid-tier XP as a reward, and a nasty penalty for failing, straight-up ban from using shared facilities. A final flashy line appeared, waiting for his confirmation. Outside, shit was already hitting the fan. One poor bastard was sprinting for his life, chased down by a massive horde of goblins. His lungs were on fire, his legs were dead weight, but he had no choice but to keep going. The goblins were raging, shrieking with that creepy hunger in their glowing eyes. The dude in the red jacket was already spent, every step filled with regret for even getting into this mess. He cursed himself, but kept telling his brain to just last a little longer. Ahead, he spotted a door leading to the parking lot. His last damn shot at survival. The goblins were right on his ass, claws out, ready to shred him. At the final moment, he yeeted himself forward, sliding like some desperate soccer tackle, his body barely squeezing through the doorway before they could grab him. With whatever scraps of breath he had left, he screamed for the others to attack right away, his voice cracking with panic. 3 other squad members stepped up, each armed with spears, calm but dead serious. They gave a red jacket guy some props for baiting even more goblins than expected. Then, without hesitation, the spear boys charged. Their weapons tore through goblins like butter, each thrust practiced and deadly. Goblins stumbled back bleeding, but others kept pushing with wild fury. The squad cut them down one after another, bodies flung back with every blow. Realizing they were screwed, one goblin let out a shrill screech, a command to retreat. Instantly, several goblins bolted, not even looking back. The spearmen yelled to strike fast before the bastards could escape. One of them suddenly grinned like a psycho, mischief blazing in his eyes. He asked the others if they wanted to see something cool. They nodded, curious but not sure what the hell he was cooking up. The red-haired guy locked in, tightened his grip on the spear, and with raw brute force hurled it at the fleeing goblins. It ripped through the air like a damn rocket. One goblin, dumb enough to think it had escaped, got nailed square in the back, convulsed, and dropped dead. The redhead turned back with a cocky grin, asking the twins if that was badass. The twins were wide-eyed, instantly agreeing it was sick as hell. Stretching his arms like it was just a workout warm-up, the redhead casually asked how many goblins they each bagged. The left twin proudly flexed with 22 kills. The right twin smirked, claiming 23. The redhead's grin widened. Together they had already crushed over 100, officially completing the mission. The twins blinked, shocked at how quick it all went down. Then Min, the red jacket guy, stormed over, pissed off. He went off about how the redhead had said there'd only be around 10 goblins, yet he'd almost died out there. The redhead's forehead veins popped as he snapped back, demanding what Min was whining about now. Min kept spitting fire, saying there was no way anyone could mistake that many goblins for just 10. The redhead rolled his eyes and brushed it off, saying results mattered. Thanks to their win, they were about to get a brand new crib, so Min should shut up. He then told Min to pay attention, calling him bro, hinting they might actually be siblings. Veins bulging, he reminded Min this whole strategy was his idea. He was the one who pushed for spears, which the twins had crafted, and all Min had to do was run, something he was already damn good at. With an annoyed sigh, the redhead gave him an out. If he hated it so much, he could just leave the squad since he wasn't making much of a difference anyway. The twins stepped in before fists flew. One told the redhead to relax, reminding him Min did his part too. The other twin threw Min a playful grin, saying he nailed it as bait and was fast as hell out there. The redhead clicked his tongue, pissed, ranting that Min always found a way to get under his skin. He demanded to know how Min dared to talk back. One twin urged Min to just apologize and move on. With no choice, Min sighed and muttered a half-assed sorry. The redhead scoffed and turned away, saying it was time to move on. They needed to hit the 21st floor to claim their new digs. But when they got there, ready to celebrate, Dabin dropped the bomb. Another team had already beaten them and taken the reward. The whole group froze, stunned, their hype turning into disbelief. In their heads, they had been insanely fast. No way anyone cleared the mission quicker. The redhead's face darkened, his temper flaring. He barked if another team really managed to slay 100 goblins faster. Dabin nodded, confirming it. The redhead furrowed his brows, telling Dabin to quit joking and hand over their house already. Dabin kept a straight face, insisting it wasn't a joke. Then she revealed the team who cleared the mission first had just arrived. Seeing them made the redhead's blood boil even more. It was Dabin's own brother and an old couple, both strolling in with cheerful smiles like they didn't just rob the spotlight. Dabin turned to her brother, wanting to know how things went with Jae-hyun. Her brother laid it out straight. They struck a deal. In exchange for ditching the new house, both his place and the elderly couple's crib would now get electricity, food, and the whole survival package. On top of that, the daughters wouldn't have to go on missions anymore. The second Dabin heard that, she snapped back that the daughters were minors, so they shouldn't have been shoved into missions to begin with. But the old couple just smiled like nothing could shake them and corrected her. Nah, their daughters weren't kids, they were grown-ass adults who only looked young. The old woman even added that the girls were skilled with bows, though her husband always stressed too much about them. Her brother went on, saying the deal even included getting bows and arrows for the daughters. Dabin frowned, wondering why the hell they needed bows. Were they seriously still going to hunt goblins? Her brother confirmed it. Jae-hyun had only asked them to wipe out the goblins in the nearby areas. Since the little monsters kept respawning no matter how many got slaughtered, they had to keep the numbers under control. Hearing all that, the red-haired guy was already looking pissed, and he barked at them to cut the useless chatter. In a firm voice, he said it looked like they were handing themselves special perks just because they were the ones in charge, and that was unfair. To a point, Dabin's brother admitted he wasn't wrong. That's why, to balance things out, he explained that Jae-hyun had ordered the second and third groups to kill 100 goblins and head to the 30th floor to collect their rewards. That finally put a genuine smile on Dabin's face. She reassured everyone that it worked out fine and told them to head up to the 30th floor. She also added that Jae-hyun would be waiting there. The red-haired man, still salty as hell, kept stewing over the fact that his team wasn't first. As the elevator went up, the red-haired man suddenly muttered that Jae-hyun didn't even look older than them. So is that really his name? Then he laughed, dripping sarcasm, mocking how Dabin had been speaking about him so respectfully. One of the twins piled on, joking that maybe Dabin saw Jae-hyun as some kind of god. The other twin burst out laughing too and scoffed, saying, "God my ass. He was nothing more than a cult leader at best." Then, like the thought just clicked, he added that maybe the guy wasn't even sane. Min, who had been quiet the whole time, finally muttered that all of them were alive only because of Jae-hyun's power. He hinted they didn't really have the right to talk trash about him like that. The second those words left his mouth, the vibe in the elevator flipped. Everyone's face soured. The red-haired man looked more pissed than ever and accused Min of just sucking up to Jae-hyun. That one jab was enough to suck all sound out of the space. Then he leaned back with that menacing stare and warned Min they'd have a little chat later. That's when the twins noticed something off. Jae-hyun was walking toward them. Calm as hell, one hand in his pocket. With the most casual little smile, he greeted them with a simple hello. That alone, paired with his whole presence, was enough to make all four of them freeze like they'd seen a ghost. The red-haired man, suddenly nervous, stuck his hand out and stammered that his name was Baek Sanjiab. Jae-hyun shook it firmly, but with zero effort, and then casually commented that he'd seen Sanjiab and his crew hunt. He said they'd used the barrier perfectly and their strategy was solid. That sent a cold chill down Sanjiab's back. His voice shook as he tried to understand how Jae-hyun could have possibly known that. But Jae-hyun didn't even acknowledge it. He just kept smiling and dropped that from now on, he'd be supplying electricity, water, and gas to units 1301 and 1502. Sanjiab, still tripping over what was happening, managed to thank him, but then blurted out how any of this was possible. Again, he tried to press how Jae-hyun was pulling it off. For the second time, Jae-hyun flat out ignored him. Instead, he reminded them they'd earned those benefits fair and square by killing 100 goblins. Then Jae-hyun's smile twisted, turning into something disturbingly eerie. His voice cut through the air with a tone sharp enough to freeze blood. He said, "By the way, I'm not some cult leader." His eyes gleamed with cold amusement as he added, "And I sure as hell don't plan on becoming a god." The weight of that line left the group paralyzed, their spines iced over, no one even able to breathe. With that same devilish grin, Jae-hyun lifted his hand close to his mouth, like he was about to whisper a secret. His tone dripped with something dark and unsettling as he dropped his final line. He had a request for them. Sometime later, a new squad comes tearing down the street, hauling ass like their lives depend on it. And yeah, it's not goblins chasing them this time. It's massive, blood-hungry orcs, swinging weapons like they're ready to cleave heads off. The group bolts around corners, legs burning, shouting for someone, anyone, to start chucking shit at the beast to slow them down. Up ahead stands Dong Jian, cool as hell, clutching a handful of spears. With a sly smirk, he tells them they did good. While the orcs stay locked on the fleeing group, he channels raw energy into one of his spears, the blade lighting up with a sharp blue aura. The system pops up, flashing his stats. Level 33, Title 6 Knight, Trust at 70, Loyalty at 78. Awakened ability, Throwing. His throws were already nasty, but now he can burn through mental energy to crank his power 5 damn times higher. Energy crackles along the weapon as he preps his strike. The system also lays it out. His physical stats scale with loyalty, monster drops are tripled, and knights like him level up faster than normal. Then, boom, he launches the spear. It tears through the air and nails the lead or clean. Its buddy goes berserk, roaring, machete in hand, and charges right at him. But Dong Jian doesn't even flinch. Why? Because from the back line, an energy-coated arrow is already screaming through the air, slamming into the orc's skull. The archer had been covering them the whole damn time, which is why Dong Jian looked so calm. The second orc drops, and without missing a beat, Dong Jian whips another spear into the third. The moment it hits, he finally exhales and mutters that it's over. The system chimes again. Jaehyun has successfully hunted a level 19 orc, banking 3,211,098 won toward the mission of killing 100 orcs. With the job done, 3 poor souls hiding from the orcs crawl out alive. Dong Jian steps up, reassuring them there's a safe spot waiting. But just as they head back, the system suddenly throws up a warning. Unauthorized people trying to get in. It prompts Jaehyun, asking if he wants to grant them citizenship. Having just switched off his ultimate eyes, he notices there are 3 newcomers. Accepting them pushes his citizen count to a clean 200. A new notification hits. When thresholds are met, new abilities unlock. This time, it's tax collection. 10% of all citizens' cash funnels back to him, but with a 30-day cooldown. Jaehyun realizes this is basically a money-back guarantee, but not something he can just undo on a whim. He bites his finger, pissed he has to wait, knowing he doesn't have the luxury of time. He's running out of it. His parents still need saving, and he's got to send Dong Jian's team soon. He experiments, redistributing 30% of the collected cash as an investment. The system responds, ding, ability leveled up to 10, handing him 3 extra skill points. But before he can relax, his chest seizes up with sharp pain. A deep purple domain expansion spreads out across the entire building. The system congratulates him. His domain has officially declared across the complex. On top of that, 1 billion won gets dumped into his wallet, and the construction function unlocks. Still gripping his chest, Jaehyun stares at the screen. A list of build options appears with their prices and potential revenue. He sees the total fund and annual production capped at 30 million won. Available projects, solar generator, store, training facility. He's shocked as hell. The solar generator alone costs 130 million won, which means running it for nearly 5 years just to break even. No way that's worth it right now. So he declines, prioritizing immediate upgrades for his vassals. But something feels off. Checking closer, he sees the 1 billion won is locked for construction only. That realization flips the script. This isn't tied to his personal wallet. It's free money just for building. A grin creeps across his face. Why the hell hold back? He instantly confirms the solar generator. The system sets a 24-hour timer, leaving him with 867 million won. Cheap for what it offers, really. He even asks if he can install another, but nope. 1 per building, maxed out. Next, he dives into the store option. And holy shit, it's even better than expected. It links directly to his existing store, letting citizens buy registered items, with the system itself spawning the goods in real time as long as funds are there. No physical shop, no messy distribution headaches. Before, Dabin had been breaking her back handling supplies. Now the system automates it all. Even better, Jae-Yun can set prices himself, boosting liquidation rates. He doesn't hesitate, installs the store instantly, picking Unit 101 for the location. The timer sets to 48 hours. Then comes the training facility. This one's a beast. It'll crank citizen training efficiency by 200%, and for anyone under level 15, a massive 300% boost. Jae-Hyun gets fired up, realizing how insane the grind will be now. He slams it down across the entire second floor, turning the whole damn level into a training hub. The system updates, 72 hours until completion. On top of that, he's got those 3 new skill points. But there's more. The system unlocks itemization. This feature lets products be sold in multiple sizes and quantities instead of just bundles. Intrigued, Jaehyun taps deeper to check the deets. Up until now, people only had package deals. But now, finally, individual purchases are in play. Scrolling through the list, Jaehyun spots a bunch of liquid-based items. Not everything's there yet, but damn, the lineup's way broader now. More food types, more product variations, like the whole system just leveled up. With a sly grin creeping onto his face, Jaehyun cooks up a new plan in his head, realizing just how busted this upgrade could be. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Deoksu is decked out in his knight armor, squaring up against a nasty orc swinging around a giant-ass knife. The beast slams a strike into him, but the armor soaks it all up, leaving him untouched. Seizing the opening, Deoksu counterattacks, dropping the orc with one clean, brutal blow. Breathing heavy, he mutters under his breath that it was way too close and this fight's draining the hell out of him. From behind, Dong Jian shouts over, asking what would happen if he just yeeted the halberd he's holding. Deoksu glances at the weapon, admitting he's never even thought about that before. Dong Jian tells him to hand it over, wanting to try something dumb but bold. The moment it's in his grip, that familiar blue aura crackles around his hands. He locks in, hurls the halberd with all his strength, and the damn thing rockets through the air like a missile, vanishing into the horizon with ridiculous force. Deoksu's jaw drops, eyes wide, like he can't believe what he just saw. He seriously thought Dong Jian was joking about throwing it, but nope, the weapon's gone. Dong Jian crosses his arms, calm as hell, and says it's already been thrown. Now Deoksu should just cancel the summoning and call it back. That's when it clicks for Deoksu what Han was thinking earlier. He channels his energy, cancels the halberd summon, then reactivates it, and boom, another halberd instantly materializes in his hands. He stares at it in awe, shock melting into pure hype. Ecstatic, he turns to Dong Jian, calling him a damn genius. Dong Jian brushes it off, telling him not to blow things out of proportion. Right then, the archer rushes up, tense as hell, saying they've got to dip because her arrows are nearly tapped out. But before the words fully leave her mouth, something strange flashes on the ground. She looks down, and there it is, a fresh quiver stacked with arrows, appearing like it was dropped straight from the system. It's like Jaehyun himself is telling them to keep pushing forward. Retreats off the table. The system pops off with a brand new ability called Omni Focus, letting the user pop another skill while still scanning with those busted-ass ultimate eyes. After scooping up the new arrows, Hyrin keeps grinding mobs with the crew. Notifications keep spamming. More dead orcs. Last one was level 19. Rewards dumped straight into the shut-in wallet. At the same time, the system's flexing. Some citizens are clearing missions, spending ones, and even leveling up. Jaehyun crosses his arms, stares at the system, and smirks like he already knew. He was right all along. Stats can be juiced through mission rewards too. For the first time, a little spark of hope creeps in. Looking out the window, he notes his parents' place is about 10 kilometers away, roughly a 3-hour walk if he hoofs it. After thinking it through, he takes a stroll around the building, rides the elevator up, and heads straight to the rooftop. From the top, he takes in the wreckage of the apocalypse. The city is just ruins and dust, every damn building leveled except his own. The sight is brutal, and under his breath, he mutters how horrifying it all is. His brain starts spinning. He needs to move fast. Opening the system window, he checks out Dong Jian's group. First target, John, tagged as the 7th servant with trust at 59, loyalty at 33, and rocking the awakened skill Crow's covenant. Recon specialist, meaning John's best paired with the Wer-Bear and the healer. The Wer-Bear, Yanju, sits at level 33 with the Warrior Bear ability, but her loyalty's trash at 12. Meanwhile, the healer Kim De-jung is level 30, armed with healing, blessing, and magic armor. Jaehyun notes the healer's already locked in as a vassal, but Yanju's still holding out. De-jung's got an A-tier blessing that amps physical stats by 70% and a B-tier magic armor that throws up a shield for allies. Straight stacked. Jaehyun realizes people born with awakened skills are busted compared to the rest, and his mind drifts. How the hell can he win over Yanju? He remembers her desperate obsession with resurrecting her son. Maybe that's the key. He opens the resurrection tab, but the system immediately slaps him. Not enough cash. He grits his teeth, pissed at being broke in the worst way. Then the idea hits. Crank the mission difficulty through the roof. He declares a mission to hunt a level 40 monster, full knowing it's insane and would spit out fat rewards. He slaps a 24-hour time limit on it. Penalty is death. But the system still refuses, not enough to pay the resurrection cost. Jaehyun cedes, fists clenched, ready to punch a hole in the damn wall. Before he can spiral, another notification dings. Confirmation of a level 18 or kill. That's when it clicks. Maybe a group mission would work. Without wasting time, he sets a mission to take down a level 40 or higher beast, still with the 24-hour limit and the same death penalty. This time, though, he tweaks the reward. Yeonju's son will be resurrected, but only for one single day. He accepts. That's enough to bind her loyalty. Back in his room, Jaehyun hears desperate banging on his door, followed by a frantic voice begging him to open. He cracks the door, and before he can even react, Yeonju barges in, eyes red and body trembling. She already heard the news, the chance to bring her son back, even for a moment. Tears pour as she chokes out that she'll do anything, absolutely anything, and she's ready to start right now. Jaehyun stays cold, telling her it's possible, but the terms are strict. 24 hours to clear the mission, 24 hours of resurrection. Upon hearing this, she collapses, bawling uncontrollably, drowning in hope she never thought she'd feel again. Through tears she thanks him, overflowing with gratitude, saying she'd be happy just to have one day with her son. With fire in her voice, she swears she'll give it everything. Right then, the system notifies that her loyalty has cracked past 30. She's now eligible to be registered as a vassal. Sometime later, Jaehyun is sprawled on his bed, eyes locked on the ceiling like he's lost in thought. With nothing but sheer mental flex, the lights flick on. Realizing he nailed it, he shifts his focus to the faucet, testing the same trick. He stares it down, channeling his will, and at first only a couple weak droplets slip out. He pushes harder, grinding down with pure focus, and the faucet bursts wide open, water blasting out full force. Jaehyun smirks, relieved but low-key unfazed. This is dope, but he's already getting used to it. He mutters that it feels like he's turned into a damn mage, straight outta Harry Potter, wand or no wand, bending electricity, water, and gas like it's second nature. Then the system hits him with an update, store earnings being tallied. A fat 320,981 won just drops into his shut-in wallet. Jaehyun does some quick math and realizes that if profit hit 320k, total sales had to have cleared over 1.5 mil today. He fires up the ultimate eyes, peeking into every floor of the building, checking on what people are up to. On another floor, one dude asks how much they still gotta save. The guy holding a bow sighs, saying the bow alone cost 150k, and today they only racked up 10k, meaning it'll take 15 days. The first guy snaps, calling him a dumbass, pointing out he didn't even count the cost of food and water for those 15 days. The archer, pissed, spins around and tells him to do the math himself if he's so damn smart. Jaehyun watches the bickering, noting how the vibe in the building shifted ever since he started tossing out reward money. Ever since that strange store appeared on the first floor, the small profits from hunting goblins have lit a fire under people, making them hungry for more. But now the goblins in the apartment complex are basically wiped out, so folks are being forced to head outside, looking for fresh prey. Checking the system, Jaehyun feels a twisted satisfaction. Level ups are flowing, citizens are multiplying fast. The count now sits at 789, XP and money bonuses locked at a full 100%. He knows shit is about to skyrocket from here. Another notification dings. Yet another level 18 orc down. Meanwhile, below, Yeonju is tearing into goblin waves like a damn wrecking ball. Her superhuman strength alone is enough to turn the battlefield into a slaughterhouse. A golden aura blazes off her body, terrifying goblins before they can even lift a blade. All she can think about is her son, that hope fueling her rampage as she shreds through the last of them. When it's finally over, her beast form fades and exhaustion slams into her, leaving her gasping for breath. From a distance, the healer calls out, checking if she's hurt. Yeonju waves it off, saying even if she was, it wouldn't matter. The healer warns her not to burn herself out, pointing out she's deleting monsters before anyone else can even touch them. Yeonju apologizes, saying she's not trying to steal kills. The archer laughs and asks why she's even saying sorry, pointing out she's making things easier for everyone by wiping them so fast. Yeonju finally breathes easy, realizing her squad isn't pissed at her after all. Watching from afar with ultimate eyes, Jaehyun admits forming this squad was a damn good call. The system then pulls up Yeonju's updated stats. She's hit level 40, her trust and loyalty locked at 66, and new powers unlocked beyond her bear form. Ancient Lifeblood. Primal Frenzy. The first one spikes her melee attack damage by 50%. On top of that, if she takes wounds, her regen skyrockets, healing her way faster. And when her eyes flash crimson at the sight of blood, her body goes wild, her physical strength surging by a brutal 300%. Before she can even process all that, a monstrous roar rips through the air. It's loud, guttural, and it chills the whole squad instantly. The sound grows closer, heavier, like something massive is barreling toward them. Then, from the shadows, it steps out, an orc, scarred all over, radiating raw menace. Its crimson eyes blaze like fire, and in its massive hands it grips a club big enough to crush a car. The thing starts speaking in some twisted tongue, words none of them can understand, and the ground itself feels like it's trembling under its presence. Faced with a threat that could end her right there, Yeonju doesn't flinch for even a damn second. She snaps into her beast mode, shifting instantly into her towering warrior bear form. Massive, golden aura blazing, she plants herself in a battle stance, staring down the orc like she owns the field. The archer and healers shout in the back, telling her to be careful, but she's already charging. A roar so loud it rattles bones rips from her throat, aiming to break the orc's spirit. But the bastard doesn't even blink. He grips his club, stands tight, and locks eyes with her. Yeonju swings first. The orc reacts in a flash, club raised to block. She doesn't slow down, hammering blow after blow, but he tanks it all like a brick wall, playing pure defense. She spots a sliver of an opening, shifts her angle, and slams from the side, trying to land that clean hit. Meanwhile, Yuhiren's locked in, bow raised, determination burning in her eyes. That arrow in her hands glows with a fierce blue aura. Watching closely, she notices the orc falter just a bit while dealing with Yeonju's fury. Perfect. She lets the shot fly, a streak of deadly precision. Yeonju steps back, quick to avoid catching friendly fire, but the orc's reflexes are insane. He whips his club and swats the arrow off course, dodging death by a hair. That slip-up, though, it costs him. Fueled by raw fury, the bear lunges, her entire bulk crashing into him like a damn truck. He slams to the dirt, and before he can blink, her fangs flash. His eyes widen, terror plain as day. Then, with one brutal bite, it's game over. The orc's life ends in an instant. The system pings Jaehyun, flexing that he just dropped a level 28 orc leader. Bonus, his shut-in wallet fattened up with a fat deposit of wands. Another notification hits. Conditions met for building a forward outpost. Basically a defense tower, a mini-safe zone outside the home base. Activated, it pushes the same protective aura as the house itself. 2 rules apply. First, only works if a knight-rank citizen or higher lives there. Second, if some random loser stays inside for more than a day, the whole thing self-destructs. Jaehyun's caught off guard but hyped as hell. A new build option. He grins wide, muttering that even though it costs a crazy 1.3 billion won, his bank's fat enough now that the orc problem's been cleaned up. Worth it. The system drops more info. Construction takes 7 days flat, and 3 knight-rank citizens minimum need to stay stationed there. That means one thing, waiting. A whole week wasted. And that eats at him. Still, he knows most of the monsters around the site are already wiped by his people. With no hesitation, Jaehyun slams the button to start construction. 7 days is annoying, but not the worst call. If it builds within his territory, it gives him some peace of mind. He stares out at the wrecked city. Childhood memories hit, times when life was simple, when family meant warmth. Strengthening his domain means protecting that feeling. Protecting them. But bringing his grandparents here will be brutal, and he knows it. Eyes closed, he prays silently for their safety. When he opens them again, his resolve hardens in his steel. Enough waiting. Tomorrow, he's sending Dong Jion's squad to launch the rescue mission. The next day, Dong Jion's crew dragged themselves back to the train station, and Jion was losing his shit. Right at the front lines, that bear chick was tearing through enemies like a walking apocalypse. From the sidelines, he just stood there in pure disbelief, watching her shred monsters one after another. The way she crushed in orc barehanded made his brain short-circuit. No normal human could do that. She wasn't just strong, she was a damn bear. It clicked in his head, finally making sense. She was already a beast before Jaehyun's blessing, and now she was on a whole different level, smashing orcs like they were made of paper. Yet the one thought that refused to leave his mind was how the hell June managed to win her over, especially when not too long ago, she didn't even care about hunting goblins. Maybe she had unlocked something new, some hidden ability stacked on top of her raw power. Right then, the system dropped a cold notification: mission, 1 hour limit, get it done and get home. No punishment if they failed, but the clock was ticking. Back at the station, Kim Jian took point, scanning every corner. He spotted the rest of his squad nearby, all ready for whatever came next. Dong Jian suggested they should just head back, and Jian considered it for a beat before nodding. That's when his crow returned, an extension of his new power. It landed clean on his arm, wings folding smooth like shadow, and Jian couldn't help but feel a little proud. Stroking the bird's sleek feathers, he named it Black, thanking it for the recon. Han stepped up, hand heavy on his shoulder, asking if Jian could take over patrolling with his new tricks. Jian sent Black up again, whispering for it to be careful. The raven's eyes gleamed with eerie intelligence as it rose, wings beating hard, soaring high above the station. It circled slow and precise, scanning rooftops, alleys, everything. And through their linked vision, Jian saw it all. Distance didn't mean shit now. Once the sweep was clear, he told Dong Jian the outside was safe. Orders flew quick, and the squad snapped into formation, tanks at the edges, healers shielded in the middle. They pushed forward, boots echoing against concrete, when Jian felt it, something off at his back. His instincts fired like alarm bells. He spun around, catching a faint rustle. Just a rat, small and filthy, sprinting across the path. He shifted up onto the platform, giving space while the others moved on. But the uneasy weight in his gut wouldn't fade. And then he saw it. In the tunnel shadows, eyes gleamed. Cold, glowing locked on him. The rat leapt out, scurrying with uncanny precision, mirroring their every step. Tiny as it was, the bastard never quit, tail whipping, eyes burning as it stalked them all the way to the exit. A short while later, back at the apartment, Jae-hyun laid it out. He wanted everyone's help. Lowering his head slightly, he asked for a favor, explaining the grim situation about his family. The group exchanged glances, processing his words in heavy silence. Jae-hyun admitted straight up that the odds of his family surviving were slim in this wrecked world. Dong Jian pressed him, asking if his relatives were inside the same apartment complex, but Jae-hyun answered with uncertainty, saying it was hard to know for sure. That's when Byung-go stepped forward, bold as hell, and without hesitation declared that they would rescue Jae-hyun's family. His sudden outburst snapped every eye toward him, but he didn't flinch. He insisted they should help. Dong Jian, with a faint but genuine smile, nodded in agreement, reminding everyone that they had survived this long only because of Jae-hyun. Facing June directly, Dong Jian made it clear they'd help, but only if Jae-hyun laid out the instructions. Relief washed over Jae-hyun's face as he managed a small smile, thanking them for their willingness to stand by him. With everyone watching, he explained the plan. The orcs at the station were gone, so their next move was simple. They'd follow the subway tracks to the next station. That place was the closest to his home. He pointed out exit number 2, saying once they got outside, he would give more specific directions. He stressed that he wasn't asking them to charge straight into danger in one reckless mission. That would be selfish. Their immediate goal was to secure the station first. Bowing his head once again, he told everyone to rest well, since the operation would kick off tomorrow. Yeonju then spoke up, asking why Jae-hyun couldn't just use his own insane abilities to bring his family to him. Frustration cracked through his calm facade as he admitted he had already tried. He had even attempted teleportation through mission rewards, and when Byung-go awakened his own teleportation ability, Jae-hyun thought they had finally struck gold. But the system instantly crushed that hope, rejecting the idea outright. He speculated that the reason was simple. His family was beyond the ability's range. If that was true, then even if his parents died, there was nothing he could do. They were beyond reach. The group listened closely as Jae-hyun admitted something raw, that even with all his powers, he wasn't omnipotent. There were limits, and there were things he simply couldn't control. Locking eyes with Yeonju, he told her not to worry, reminding her that the promise he once made was still one he could keep. At that moment, the system flashed a new notification. Her trust in him had increased again. Yeonju smiled, thanking him for his honesty, and appreciating that he had never hidden anything from her. Jae-hyun in turn thanked everyone for their honesty and urged them again to get their rest. One by one, they dispersed, preparing for much-needed sleep. As Dong Jian walked away, he paused, turning back just long enough to remind Jaehyun to rest too. But right then, something snapped Jaehyun's attention sideways. The system flared alive, warning him that someone was attempting to enter. They met all requirements, and the system asked if he wanted to grant them citizenship. Without hesitation, Jaehyun unleashed his ultimate eyes and commanded approval. The name popped up, Co Yejin, level 31, Awaken Ability, Queen of Rats. Jaehyun's eyes widened. Shock slammed into him as the truth hit. The one he had just welcomed in wasn't human at all. It was a goddamn rat. 1 hour earlier, when the crew was still stuck inside the subway station, a rat was creeping in the shadows, eyeballing them like it had front row seats to some wild show. These people weren't normal. They had straight-up shredded orcs like it was light work. As they climbed the stairs, the rat kept wondering if they were all rocking awaken abilities, and at the same time doubting if that was even possible. Hiding in a corner, the little bastard debated its next move. Maybe it was smarter to just stalk them for a while and slide in later when the time was right. With its skills, pulling that off shouldn't be too damn hard. So, hyped on its own plan, the rat darted after the squad. Out on the wrecked city streets, it kept tailing them, convincing itself it was just checking things out. Then its ears twitched, human voices, actual laughter, kids playing like this wasn't a fucking apocalypse. The rat froze, dumbstruck. Seeing kids goofing around in a world torn to pieces? That was just unnatural. It looked at the intact building where everyone had gathered, and its curiosity spiked like crazy. What the hell was this place? It decided to sneak closer, but as soon as it tried hopping up the steps, it smacked headfirst into some invisible wall. Skull throbbing, a fat lump rising, the rat squealed in pain like a damn cartoon. Right in front of it, a glowing system window popped up, denying entry. The rat rubbed its aching head, grumbling, when another message appeared, asking if it wanted to acquire citizenship. Annoyed and still woozy, the rat just hit accept without thinking. At first, it cursed itself, thinking, nah, no way in hell a rat gets citizenship. But then, ding, the system confirmed it. Rat was officially a citizen. The little dude went nuts, punching the air with its tiny paw like it had just pulled off the greatest heist in history. Hyped, it strutted forward and slid through the entrance. But the second it crossed the line, all hell broke loose. People freaked the fuck out. A rat inside their safe haven? Instant riot. Boots slammed down trying to crush it, but the rat went into survival mode, dodging and darting like its life depended on it. After a desperate scramble, it tumbled out of the chaos, rolling straight into another room. This room? A goddamn training facility. The squad was in there grinding hard. Dong Jian and Deoksu pumping dumbbells like their arms were forged out of steel. Byungo and Jian cranking out bench presses. Hiren and Gaeong doing their own drills across the room. Meanwhile, Dejung and Yanju were swapping turns on the lat pull-down, tearing it up. The rat just sat there in awe, tiny jaw dropping, mind blown by how savage the training was. What kind of monster nest had it stumbled into? Meanwhile, somewhere else, a woman was clutching her head, groaning from a splitting headache. She had been in the subway station earlier, and now she was suffering, probably still messed up from when the rat face-planted into that invisible barrier. She covered her mouth, but instead of fear, a twisted grin spread across her face. The pain had given her clarity, opportunity. Her smile warped into a full-blown maniacal grin. She finally had a way to survive. But getting there? That was the tricky part. She needed to reach Siamayan Station, where the group had been. Chewing on her nails, she thought it through. The subway tracks might be her only route. Problem was a monster owned that place, blocking the way like a damn boss fight. But instead of breaking, she clenched her fists, eyes blazing. That was exactly why she had a shot. Because there wasn't a single fucking corner of this world she couldn't reach if she wanted to. And with that thought, the ground came alive. At her command, a horde of rats poured out, swarming the station like a tide of nightmares. Right then, a system ping hit. Jaehyun had just hunted down a trained level 2 rat and bagged a little XP. The woman's skill was called Queen of Rats, forcing any rat she crossed paths with to bend the knee and letting her share their senses. Staring at the notification, Jaehyun instantly clocked that she was riding the rat's spirit like a remote camera. Without wasting a beat, he flicked on Ultimate Eyes. An awakened ability user had walked right into his range, and no matter the setup, he had to take her in. He swept through every room with sharp precision, hunting for her, but found nothing. Even scanning the outside gave 0 results. Then it hit him. She had already been marked as a citizen. If that was the case, maybe he could just pull her in using the mission system. He drafted up something simple. Visit the apartment within 48 hours, with a reward of cola and a choco bar. But right before hitting confirm, he froze. A memory slapped him. The conversation with Yanju, when she asked why he couldn't just summon his own family here. He had tried before and failed every damn time. But maybe back then, those people weren't under his sphere of influence. Now, with citizenship in play, things were different. The system logged every kill his citizens made, no matter the distance. That proved his theory. They were all within his reach. He tweaked the mission. Same objective, visit the apartment, but now with only 10 seconds on the clock, and failure meant instant summoning. When the system let it slide with no restrictions, Jae-hyun felt a jolt of surprise. This was worth the gamble. If it worked even once, he could drag his family here when the forward base opened. That base would give him the same authority as his original territory. His people would be dispatched, citizenship granted, and finally he could summon his loved ones safely. The only catch, the cost. But screw it, cost didn't matter if it meant saving his family. With zero hesitation, he slammed the button. Countdown began. His only thought was praying it wouldn't drain a billion won. The timer hit 0. System flashed. Mission failed. Relief hit him like a truck when the price wasn't catastrophic, only 30 million won. He actually clutched his chest, letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding. And then, sitting right at the entrance of the apartment was CEO Yejin, the queen of rats. On her knees, trembling, face pale with terror, rambling where the hell she was. Jae-hyun instantly killed Ultimate Eyes, confirming the penalty had kicked in perfectly. He started walking toward her. The closer he got, the harder she shook, panic flooding her whole body. The monarch of isolation finally spoke, calling her by name. That only fried her brain more. She blurted out demands, desperate to know who the hell he was and how he knew her name. His reply was cold and simple. He was the one who granted her citizenship. Yejin processed, still lost, asking if this was the place her little rat had been. Jae-hyun pulled a soda from the system, nodding. Yeah, this was the top floor. She had peeked through the rat's eyes. He handed her a choco bar and soda, apologizing for the sudden summon, knowing damn well she was terrified. Calm and steady, he introduced himself, told her his name, and even dropped a polite line about it being a pleasure to meet. She hesitated, then finally reached out, took the snacks, and steadied her breathing. She asked straight up if he was the one who summoned her and also the one behind that shady subway search earlier. He confirmed both without blinking. Her whole expression flipped, sudden excitement lighting her face, leaving him puzzled. Then she blurted out something urgent. She had people, she needed his help bringing them here. She tried herself, nearly risking everything, but couldn't pull it off. Jae-hyun stayed cool, asked how many exactly. She shot back, 35. The number hit him hard, way more than expected. He sighed and admitted straight, this was out of his current reach. She broke instantly, panicking, grabbing at his clothes with trembling hands, swearing her mother and younger sister were in that group, begging like her life depended on it. He studied her, realizing she was just as desperate for help. After a long silence, he told her to give him time. Brain racing, he remembered something. She hadn't even needed direct contact to gain citizenship. The system had recognized her rat as part of her. If that worked once, maybe it could work again. A system window popped up in front of Jae-hyun, flashing CEO Yejin stats. Trust level at 37, level 31 overall. He smirked. Her trust had already climbed, and with the shit she'd just gone through, it made sense she'd lean on him even harder. Still on her knees, eyes drowning in desperation, she listened as he called her name. He asked if she could really do anything. Without a shred of doubt, Yejin fired back that she would. Absolutely anything. Jae-hyun inhaled deep, then dropped the bomb. There was a way to make her wish real, but first she had to hand him everything, 100% trust, no cracks, no doubts. His voice stayed steady, calm, almost too damn sure of itself, as he told her that if she gave him that kind of faith, he would save them without fail. Those words lit her up like fire, hope exploding in her eyes. She clasped her hands together like she was praying and screamed that she trusted him completely, swearing again she'd do anything if it meant saving her family. The system chimed. Yejin's trust level hit 50, loyalty crossed 30. Conditions met. She was now eligible to become a vassal. Jae-hyun grinned, sharp and satisfied. Good, very good. What came next would be even better. Without hesitation, he tapped the option to register her. A surge of blue aura erupted, wrapping around her body. For a moment, the strange sensation startled her, but the system didn't wait. Another window appeared. Yejin was now officially recognized as the 10th Seed, Knight, and Tamer. Her awakened abilities blazed across the screen: Queen of Rats and Evolution. Jaehyun scanned the details carefully. The Tamer title juiced up her creature's stats based on loyalty, and the higher her trust, the faster they grew. Evolution, Tier A+, was busted. Her tame beast would keep growing, hitting thresholds, and then evolving into something nastier. As the glowing energy pumped through her, Jaehyun asked the critical thing: were there rats near where her family was? Yejin, buzzing with fresh power, nodded fast. That was all he needed. He ordered her to send them immediately. The Rat Queen sat cross-legged, eyes closing in concentration, her consciousness diving into the swarm. Jaehyun seized the chance, activated Ultimate Eyes, and his vision expanded. Suddenly, he was seeing through a rat's eyes. The system registered it as an extension of Yejin herself. A window popped up. Tame Mouse, Level 2. The little creature scurried forward, stopping in front of a huddled group. They stared, whispering. Was this one of Yejin's rats? Then the system went crazy. A window appeared above the rat, and in the next breath, supplies rained from nowhere. Food, water, essentials, all falling like miracles. People froze, wide-eyed, struggling to even process it. Someone muttered if this was Yejin's doing, but the system confirmed it with another update. Her trust skyrocketed. From the shadows, Jaehyun watched it unfold exactly as he predicted. And then it hit him. Yejin's rats plus his absolute eyes meant every damn rat in the sewers was now his personal camera. Tens of thousands of eyes crawling underground, all his. He grinned, wicked and thrilled. This was insane. He just bagged the ultimate scout. Yejin, voice calm but firm, asked for permission to speak. She wanted to confirm if the place he mentioned was near the Songdo Sea. Jaehyun nodded. Yeah, that was the spot. Then realization struck. She had gone to Namgyumen-dong, the same place his family lived. That put her ahead of Dong Jian's team, who didn't know the area. And all she had to do was send one rat to check. It was enough to confirm survival, and now, with her busted powers, even drop supplies on top. Jaehyun explained the plan. Yejin smiled, confidence blazing, and assured him he could leave it all to her. The system pinged again, loyalty and trust up. He didn't waste another second, told her to head out right away. She nodded, playfully stroking one of her rats, and confirmed. But when Jaehyun asked her to follow the subway route, her smile cracked. Panic slapped across her face as she blurted it wouldn't work. He froze, thrown off by the sudden reaction. Yejin, still rattled, explained the truth. A monster lived inside Sia Mine Station. Jaehyun stiffened, caught off guard by the drop. Was she serious? Yejin's grim nod was enough. He rubbed his chin, deep in thought before dropping another idea. Could she send just one rat inside? Though shaken, haunted by whatever trauma she carried, Yejin steadied herself. Blue aura coursed through her again as she confirmed she could. The perspective flipped. Now was the rat inside the subway. The tiny creature darted forward through the abandoned station until it froze. Something ahead. Its gaze lifted. A massive figure held up an orc's limp body like a rag doll. The vision rose higher. The true form of the beast revealed. A gigantic serpent. It devoured the orc with terrifying ease. Even hidden, the rat's faint movements drew its attention. The snake's head snapped, laser-focused. With a brutal snap of its jaws, it swallowed the orc whole and then shifted its blood-red eyes directly onto the rat. The rodent trembled, every nerve screaming. It scurried behind a pillar, praying it was safe. For a second, relief washed over it. But then the massive serpent slid forward, speed monstrous, fangs flashing, ready to end it. The rat barely leapt out in time, escaping death by a hair. Now its only shot was to run like hell. But the snake wasn't letting go. It chased mercilessly, every movement like a predator playing with prey. For one split second, it hesitated, and the rat bolted with everything it had, running for its life. Back in the apartment, Jaehyun sat in dead silence, his ultimate eyes glowing, tracking every move. That snake was a beast, massive, terrifying, definitely packing a level way above 40. Yejin's voice cracked as she spoke, saying she saw the monster too, and then straight up declared this was why they couldn't use Seo Mine Station anymore. Her plan was simple: skip the station, head to the next. She reminded him she had seen just how strong his crew was, and she was confident they could handle reaching the next stop. Jaehyun mulled it over, then admitted she was right. He nodded, thanked her, and with a grin told her from now on, Unit 2701 would be her room, though she'd need to clean it up first. Yejin accepted, thanked him, and asked to leave. He reminded her to stay safe, and, as she walked off, he caught himself smiling faintly. If it was the old him, this would have been his exact plan too. With that thought, he opened the system interface and ordered the installation of solar generators. The system confirmed 24 hours until completion. Outside, rooftops lit up as panels unfolded and locked into place with machine-like efficiency. Jaehyun watched, impressed but unsatisfied. Even with this setup, it wasn't enough to keep nearly 800 people alive. They needed more manpower, more shifts, more everything. A 3-shift system was the bare minimum. The same grind applied to their new shared facilities, the solar power, the store system, the training grounds. Cut to Dong Jion's squad. Running like hell, something chasing them hard. Dong Jion glanced back and realized their pursuers were gaining. No way they'd outrun this forever. They skidded to a stop, braced themselves, and launched their counterattack. A swarm of giant bats came diving at insane speed, but the group unleashed chaos. Arrows laced with blue mana tore through wings and flesh, bats shrieking as they fell. One by one, the creatures dropped until the field was littered with corpses. Gaon checked in, asking if anyone was hurt. Everyone was good. Hiren, still tense, asked if they really thought they could take down the serpent Jaehyun had mentioned. Gaon shrugged it off with confidence, reminding her that Jaehyun could summon them back to safety if shit hit the fan. Hiren nodded, realizing she was overthinking. Dong Jion smirked, telling her to chill. Jaehyun was watching everything anyway. Then he gave the order to move. They finally reached the station, and what greeted them was straight horror. The ground was littered with ripped-apart goblins and orcs, blood and guts everywhere. Dong Jion told the rest to push forward while she steadied herself. Moving carefully, tension in the air like a blade, Dong Jion's instincts suddenly screamed. A hiss cut through the silence. He barked for everyone to stop and be ready. Then it appeared. The serpent. Massive, scales glinting deep purple, golden eyes glowing with nothing but bloodlust. The squad froze, their bodies shaking as adrenaline crashed into their veins. Deoksu finally snapped, yelling about how the hell they were supposed to fight something like that. Panic hit. Everyone scrambling for a plan, any plan. Dong Jion, still terrified, wrapped his girlfriend in his arms, shielding her. With all the force in his voice, he screamed for everyone to hit the ground. The moment they dropped, razor-fast strikes tore through the air above them, slicing like blades, slamming into the metro walls with explosive force. Then Dong Jion kept shielding the archer with his own body, and deep down he felt it. This really might be the endgame for them. As the others snapped out of their shock, confusion flooded in. They were tripping over whether that impact was an earthquake or if the serpent itself had caused it. Right then, a system notification slammed into Dong Jion's vision, and his eyes widened. A party quest unlocked. Objective: finish off the giant serpent. That wording hit different. It didn't say fight it, didn't say defeat it. Straight up finish it off. When he looked back at the beast, something was off. The serpent's scales were dripping in blood, its flesh literally melting from the inside. With the archer still down by his side, Dong Jion shot a glance toward the werbear woman. One silent nod between them, and the deal was sealed. They'd take initiative. He had no clue what the hell was happening, but he wasn't backing down. Equipment materialized across his back, and he yanked out a spear. With every ounce of strength, he hurled it straight into the serpent's massive skull. The weapon hit dead center, and the beast let out a bone-shaking scream of agony. Here's the thing about giant serpents. They love to eat their prey alive, which is why they drown them in venom or crush them till they suffocate before swallowing. But that rule doesn't apply to prey small as a mouse. Flashback hits. The mouse literally leapt straight into the serpent's mouth, letting itself get swallowed in a blink. That tiny, savage play was part of Jaehyun's plan. Jaehyun cracked a quiet laugh and gave the command, "Open storage." Watching with his ultimate eyes, he saw the mouse's skills pop up, storage and shop. With the mouse already inside the serpent's body, he summoned gas, making its belly swell like a balloon, then tossed in burning papers already lit. Gas plus fire. The result, an internal implosion. The serpent blew apart from the inside out, blood and gore everywhere. The Queen of Rats flinched, a sharp discomfort ripping through her as if she felt the mouse's pain. Jaehyun walked over, saw her unease, and asked if she was fine. She admitted it just startled her. He gave her credit. She did good. She finally let out a breath, loosening up, but his ultimate eyes were still on. He knew he wasn't the one who landed the final blow. He wanted the serpent's death to be claimed by his knights, Dong Jian and Yanju. That way, he'd stack 6 times the EXP and profit. Scene cuts back. Dong Jian's spear had hit, and Yanju, already half-transformed, didn't hesitate. She tore into the serpent with her claws, slash after slash, until finally she leapt high, slammed down with everything she had, and crushed its head into a crater. When she landed, she glanced back, serpent down for real this time. The system confirmed it. King Snake vanquished. EXP showered. Tons of one dropped straight into the Shutin's wallet. The station boss was down, which meant one thing. An outpost could now be built here. System spam rolled in, skills leveling, a house declaration skill hitting level 15, giving Jaehyun 3 more points. With it came the same sharp pain in his chest, the price of evolution. His domain stretched further, swallowing more ground. Then another alert hit. A being qualified for citizenship had been detected. Through the pain, Jaehyun gave the command to grant it. His citizen count shot up to 1,000. And with that milestone, every single citizen unlocked a new passive base salary. 100% XP and profit boost, just like that. Jaehyun's eyes went wide. He pulled up his citizen status and confirmed it with his own damn eyes. 100% boost across the board. Even if their profit share was set to 0, they still cashed in on the bonus. Wild. Before he could sink deeper into the thought, Yejin pulled him back. She apologized for the timing, but asked if he could bring her group here too. He stayed quiet, thought it over, then cracked a soft smile and said he'd make it happen. The Queen of Rats lit up, hands over her mouth, eyes shining like she couldn't hide her joy. Jaehyun asked if she could control another rat again. This time, fired up with confidence, she said she absolutely could. He nodded, deciding the others would follow her rat's lead. Back at the Seomayan station, the giant serpent's corpse still sprawls across the ground, motionless and reeking of death. From that grim scene, a tiny mouse scurries out, now acting like the squad's GPS, leading them straight toward their next destination. Dong Jian is still standing there like his brain's buffering, shocked at what he's seeing. Yanju snaps him back, telling him to get his shit together, and wonders if his group was the one who wiped out all those orcs littering the floor. He shoots it down instantly and throws the blame back at her, but she swears she didn't do it either. The orcs were already corpses when she showed up. That only means one thing. This must be deep inside orc turf, and whoever did the massacre is way above their pay grade. As they push forward, the landscape turns into a horror show, orc corpses everywhere, blood soaking the dirt, the whole place stinking of death. Dong Jian mutters that with the serpent out of the picture, the big threat's gone, but he warns everyone not to get cocky yet. Kim Gaung nods, pointing out that shadowy packs of monsters could still be hiding nearby, waiting to pounce. Right then, the mouse stops, squeaks, and waves its tiny paws like it's saying, "Hurry the hell up." Deoxa laughs, calling it smart as hell, while Moon Byung-go explains that the mouse is actually one of Jaehyun's skills. The squad keeps moving, but far off in the distance, Jaehyun watches like a ghost, eyes locked on everything. He notes that for now the coast looks clear. Then his gaze shifts to a system notification. 3 fresh skill points unlocked. A grin creeps in as he debates where to spend them. With his territory growing, the top priority has to be Ultimate Eyes, especially since it chains perfectly with the Queen of Rats' ability. He gives the command to upgrade, and the system slams him with its usual curse. Except this time, instead of a stabbing pain in his chest, he's hit with a skull-cracking headache so brutal it feels like his brain's splitting open. When the agony fades, the upgrade shows its worth. Not only can he now see the level tags floating above monsters' heads, but the new skill digs deeper. Stats, behavior, IQ, attributes, even their unique quirks. It's like flipping on a cheat code. He knows this is crucial. Spotting the right level monsters means assigning quests smartly, saving resources, and cutting down on costly resurrections. Already hyped about the power boost, he dumps the next point into dignity preservation. With more people under his wing, keeping trust and loyalty locked in is everything. The system responds, and the upgrade locks in. But before he can breathe, before he can finish the damn plan, the world shatters. A deafening crack splits through the air, like thunder laced with steel. The sound isn't random. It's sharp, violent, and carries that unmistakable edge. Gunshots. Loud, brutal, and way too close for comfort. Since Jaehyun had his ultimate eye skill activated at that moment, he immediately caught on that the gunshots weren't coming from the apartment complex, but from the metro station. Snapping his gaze back toward the station, he spotted several goblins holding revolvers. Each one wore a twisted, malicious grin, fully aware of the terrifying advantage they now had with firearms. The only thought racing through Jaehyun's head was why goblins even had guns in the first place, and more importantly, how they had managed to get them. Because it wasn't just a single goblin armed with a weapon. There were multiple, firing recklessly and spreading chaos, their bullets throwing the metro into pure panic. Dong Jian and his team had gone up against plenty of dangerous enemies before, but never had they encountered a threat that escalated so suddenly and so unpredictably. The shock of it put everyone on edge. As soon as Dong Jian realized the goblins had opened fire, he shouted to his team, ordering them to run for cover and hide behind whatever protection they could find. The sound of gunfire echoed throughout the metro while the group scrambled into temporary safety. From behind cover, Dong Jian and the archer peeked out, watching cautiously. Clearly rattled, the archer muttered in disbelief, wondering how those goblins had gotten their hands on guns. Dong Jian replied grimly that the only thing he knew for sure was that fighting them head-on right now was impossible. But then a faint smile crept across his face, because he remembered Moon Byung-go was with them. Without wasting a second, Moon Byung-go activated his teleportation ability, catching the goblins completely off guard and not giving them a chance to react. His expression burned with fury, his eyes blazing with determination. With zero hesitation or remorse, he drove his spear straight through the back of one goblin, silencing it with a final scream. That cry immediately alerted the others, who turned their attention toward him, realizing he now stood right in their midst. But Moon Byung-go was anything but weak. Certainly not the easy prey they had assumed. Using his deadly close-range combat skills, he cut down every goblin that lunged at him, decapitating them one after another. From a distance, the revolver-wielding goblins quickly understood that their best chance was to shoot before he closed the gap. But just as they raised their weapons, arrows pierced their hands, making them drop their guns in agony. Those shots came from Gaeong, the archer, who had been carefully watching and struck at the perfect moment. And she wasn't alone. Deoksu, clad in heavy knight's armor, and Yeonju also charged in, launching themselves into the fray and tearing into the goblins with relentless attacks, not letting them catch a breath or fight back. Meanwhile, from a distance, Qin Jian and Yu Hairen stood frozen, watching in disbelief as their teammates unleashed such strength and coordination. Deoksu and Yeonju pressed forward without pause, carving through the goblins, while Moon Byung-go and Gaeong provided cover from behind to ensure the group's victory. After the battle ended, Jaehyun turned his focus back to the revolver and its ammunition, examining them closely with the help of his ultimate eyes. Once he was satisfied, he commanded the system to register both items. Almost immediately, the system confirmed that the revolver and its ammo had been successfully added. Realizing what had just happened, Jaehyun froze in silence for a moment, shocked at the fact that he had managed to place a firearm into the system's inventory. It didn't take long for him to recognize that this wasn't something he could casually put up for sale in the store. Sure, making guns available would have massive benefits. People would instantly be motivated to hunt monsters, and even low-level individuals under level 10 could go out to fight orcs regularly. That meant more experience points flowing in and far greater profits overall. But along with the potential came a very real problem. He still couldn't fully trust the citizens. Right now, he was accepting people without any kind of screening or criteria. Anyone who showed up was welcomed and given supplies, under the assumption that he'd be able to manage everything no matter what. While this approach had allowed the community to grow quickly and brought many advantages, things would be completely different once firearms entered the picture. With guns involved, there was no way to guarantee that someone in this ever-expanding population wouldn't eventually cause chaos. Beyond the obvious issue of shortages during an apocalypse, there were also human emotions to worry about: envy, resentment, and jealousy that could easily spiral into violence if weapons were introduced. And accidents were bound to happen sooner or later. In the worst case, someone could end up dead. That's when Jaehyun decided firearms would be extremely valuable, but they could only be given to properly verified people. Opening the system menu again, he also set an extra condition. Guns would only be available to individuals with high loyalty. With that settled, Jaehyun already knew who the first person to receive one would be. Back at the metro station, the group stood among goblin corpses scattered across the ground. Out of nowhere, a gun suddenly began to materialize midair before dropping right in front of Moon Byung-go, startling him with how sudden it appeared. He cautiously approached, stepping slowly until he reached it. Then, with a faint smile on his face and his finger resting softly against the trigger, he picked it up, fully aware of who was responsible for this gift. Without even needing to see Jaehyun, he silently gave his thanks. Afterward, the group continued moving deeper into the metro tunnels, guided by the little mouse that was leading them toward the Rat Queen's nest. Eventually, after walking for some time, they arrived at the place the mouse seemed to have been pointing to. Their path ended at a heavy door that clearly separated the inside from outside dangers. Dong Jian, as the group's leader, stepped forward without hesitation and decided to open it himself. The door creaked slowly open, and the moment it did, they spotted several people inside. Those inside immediately began trembling in fear, unsure who these newcomers were. For all they knew, it could have been goblins or some other terrifying monsters. Later that day, the weather turned out perfect for a walk. Jaehyun noticed this and decided to step outside for some fresh air. Walking along the sidewalks, he thought about how nice it was that the territory now included the trail just beyond the apartment complex. It struck him that it had been a long time since he had gone for a proper walk, and he quietly thanked Yejin for joining him. While they enjoyed the peaceful moment, the system suddenly alerted him that an unauthorized entity was trying to enter. Seeing this, Jaehyun smiled and casually remarked that it looked like someone had arrived. Curious, Yejin asked who it might be. The system then displayed that someone meeting the requirements for citizenship was approaching the shelter and asked if Jaehyun wanted to grant access. Without hesitation, he approved. Moments later, Yejin heard her name being called. To her amazement, her mother and sister, Yojin, were running toward her, waving with joy. Overwhelmed, the three of them rushed into each other's arms, holding on tight in an emotional embrace. Their mother, tearing up, asked why she had disappeared without a word and confessed how worried she had been. Yejin apologized sincerely. Yojin, glowing with happiness, exclaimed how nice her sister smelled and teased if she had taken a bath. Smiling, Yejin admitted she had, and added that there was even hot water here. She told them they would also be able to enjoy a warm bath now. From nearby, Jaehyun watched the heartwarming reunion while listening to them chat about how the place even had beds and hot meals. Then he called Yejin over. She turned quickly, asking if something was wrong, but he simply informed her that Unit 2701 had been assigned to her, free for her to use as she wished. Still, he warned it might feel cramped for 30 people. Yejin turned back toward her family, remembering that all 30 survivors from the metro had been rescued and brought here. She lowered her head, lost in thought, trying to figure out how to manage space for everyone. But Jaehyun stepped in, saying he would give her 3 additional rooms since she more than deserved it. Her cheeks flushed, and she thanked him earnestly. He added that she could also use Units 2402, 2301, and 1902 in the same building. Hearing that brought tears to her eyes, while her mother and sister smiled in relief and joy. Yejin, deeply moved, promised she would always do her best. At that exact moment, the system displayed a notification that loyalty and trust levels among the citizens had risen significantly. Seeing this, Jaehyun felt a spark of excitement, satisfied with how things were turning out. But then something else crossed his mind. There was a system feature he had unlocked earlier when leveling up but hadn't yet checked. It was called Beast Management. The name alone gave him a vague idea of its purpose. But when he finally looked at the activation cost, his jaw nearly dropped. The price was a staggering 1 billion, leaving him in utter disbelief. All of a sudden, someone called out to Jaehyun, asking if she could have a moment of his time. He led her toward a nearby room, opened the door, and gestured for her to come in. The person was none other than Yu Hairin, the girl with the poison mist ability. She looked uneasy, clearly nervous about what she was about to say. Jaehyun gently asked what she wanted to talk about. With a worried look and a faint trace of fear in her voice, she admitted that she had something to confess. Seeing how afraid she seemed, Jaehyun gave her a soft smile, encouraging her to take a deep breath and assuring her she could speak openly without pressure. His calm and kind tone gave her the courage to finally speak. Bowing her head slightly, She thanked him before struggling to say that she was truly sorry but wanted to leave the team. The words hit Jae-hyun like a shock. He had never encountered anything like this before, and in disbelief, he asked if she really meant what she just said. Hyran, guilt written all over her face, repeated that she was very sorry but insisted that she needed to leave the party. Jae-hyun stayed silent for a moment, unable to fully process the sudden turn of events. Hyran then tried to explain herself, saying her ability was one of the reasons she felt useless in the group. She confessed that she often thought her presence made no real difference, that things would be the same whether she was there or not. Jae-hyun urged her to stay calm and speak freely, reminding her that she could always be honest with him. The girl bit down on her teeth, as if bracing herself, and with trembling hesitation, she finally admitted she was scared. The way her voice shook left Jae-hyun speechless. She repeated that she really was terrified. The goblins had been horrifying, the orcs just as frightening, and the giant snake even worse. She even recalled the time they were chased by the red tiger, each moment a brush with death. The memories alone brought tears to her eyes until she broke down crying. Once again, she apologized to Jae-hyun, saying she knew he had saved her countless times while she stood helplessly, unable to do anything. With trembling hands, she wiped away her tears and continued, saying she was nothing more than useless, someone who had failed to meet his expectations. Quietly listening, Jae-hyun reflected that, deep down, he had already noticed this before. He remembered when they rescued Moon, Byung-go's grandmother. Hyran had been obviously afraid then. He recalled her fear during the orc hunt, during the fight with the giant snake, and especially when they were being chased by the red tiger, when she had nearly lost her life. He knew her presence hadn't made much impact on the group's success. Still, he also understood it wasn't her fault. Her ability, Poison Mist, was dangerous to use. It could easily harm her own allies if handled poorly. That made it hard for her to contribute effectively in battle. Even so, she had risked her life many times fighting beside them. Results may have fallen short, but her courage couldn't be denied. Watching her cry, Jae-hyun decided to speak. He told her that this actually worked out well, because he had something he needed her help with. She paused, wiping her tears, and asked what he meant. Jae-hyun explained if she knew Kim Dabin, who lived on the 21st floor. He told her Dabin had been overwhelmed trying to handle everything alone, burdened with too many responsibilities. He went on to say he planned to create and manage communal facilities on every floor, not just the 21st, and needed someone trustworthy to help manage them. Moving closer, he asked if she could take on this role, assuring her she would be a great help if she agreed. When she didn't answer right away, he scratched his cheek awkwardly before adding that anyone willing to help, even in small ways, could never be considered useless in his eyes. Even though she still looked downhearted, Jae-hyun thought to himself about how powerful her ability truly was. Because it was a control-type poison skill, he believed that one day her real worth would shine. He told her that if going outside the apartment complex felt too overwhelming for now, she could just focus on working indoors. And when the day came where her power was truly needed again, he promised he would absolutely rely on her. That trust and reassurance made her stop crying for a moment, and she managed a small, timid smile. At that exact moment, the system displayed a notification. Her loyalty had risen to 100, and she was officially registered as a vassal, with the vassal capacity expanded as well. Wiping her face again, Hyran apologized one more time, her voice still shaking, but this time she smiled genuinely. She admitted she had shown him her weak side, but promised she would do her best to help from now on. Hearing those words lifted Jae-hyun's spirits. He realized that she had been working hard all along and that he could keep counting on her moving forward. Sometime later, while still inside the room, Jae-hyun's focus is once again pulled toward a lingering system notification. It's about beast summoning, and the cost attached to it is a jaw-dropping 1 billion won. Staring at this potential new ability, he thinks that maybe, just maybe, it might be worth the gamble, no matter how insanely expensive it seems. With that thought, he throws caution aside, presses the confirmation button, and requests the system to summon the guardian beast. Instantly, the system notifies him that 1 billion won has been deducted. Right at that moment, a dazzling light bursts forth, catching Jae-hyun off guard. The strange part is that the light shoots directly out of the ground, making the whole situation feel even weirder and freezing him in place. Soon, it becomes obvious that the light is coming from a glowing magical circle radiating a strong yellow hue. The magic is so intense that Jae-hyun has to squeeze his eyes shut just to avoid going blind. Then, from the center of that circle, something unexpected materializes, a massive egg. Seeing this, Jae-hyun can't help but marvel, wondering what kind of guardian beast could possibly hatch from it. Even after the circle fades, the egg itself continues to glow vividly. Normally, a magical egg would take ages to hatch, but this one immediately starts cracking apart. The brightness is so overwhelming that Jae-hyun has to cover his eyes with his hand. Within moments, the egg shatters completely, and what emerges leaves him stunned. From within steps a creature draped in sleek black feathers, with huge expressive eyes, a sharp beak, and elegant plumage. It's a bird, a small black bird with oversized eyes and a stylish crest perched on its head. Without wasting time, Jae-hyun activates his ultimate eyes ability to check the details of his new guardian beast. The system quickly reveals the information. The creature is a three-legged crow, currently at level 1. It's described as a divine bird born with the power of the sun, though right now it's only a hatchling that still needs care. For it to grow properly, it has to be regularly bathed in high-quality sunlight. Smiling warmly, Jae-hyun waves at his new companion and greets it sincerely. The little crow's shiny eyes sparkle with excitement, and it begins chirping softly as if trying to talk back. Stroking his chin in thought, Jae-hyun wonders what to name it. Looking at the glossy black feathers, he remarks that it really is a jet black crow and suggests calling it Blackie. The moment the name leaves his lips, the crow's eyes gleam even brighter, practically radiating joy. It starts chirping loudly in celebration, as though shouting its name out with pride. Jae-hyun leans closer, asking if it truly likes the name, and the bird chirps even more enthusiastically, almost like saying yes. Relieved and happy, Jae-hyun feels satisfied. After a while, though, he notices that Blackie just won't stop chirping nonstop. Assuming the little thing must be hungry, Jae-hyun offers it some snacks. The crow happily munches on them, devouring the entire pack before letting out a loud burp, clearly stuffed. And just like anyone after a good meal, the bird quickly dozes off. Watching it sleep, Jae-hyun realizes how easily this tiny mascot can nod off after eating, and he muses that one day this little hatchling will surely grow into a true beast. Squatting down beside it, he admits to himself that he wishes he could fall asleep as easily as Blackie. Just then, another system notification pops up. It shows that Blackie's level has increased, and along with it, the efficiency of the solar generator has doubled by 100%. A follow-up screen explains that the solar generator is a facility that produces electricity using sunlight, generating between 80,000 to 100,000 won daily, and any extra energy is credited back into the shut-in wallet. Reading this, Jae-hyun suddenly feels inspired. He remembers that the 10 new buildings he recently bought don't yet have solar generators installed. Back then, he had already poured most of his funds into other projects, and he thought spending 130 million won just to get 30 million won annually wasn't worth it. But now he chuckles to himself, realizing how completely different things look after this boost. As more time passes, more notifications roll in, Black's level keeps climbing, and with it, the efficiency of the solar generator keeps rising. The latest report shows that efficiency has already tripled, raising the returns from 30 million won to 90 million won annually. A wide grin spreads across Jae-hyun's face as he realizes there's no reason to hold back anymore. Without hesitation, he commands the system to install solar generators across all 10 new buildings. The system promptly confirms that installation will be finished within 24 hours. A little while later, in room 3001, the doorbell rings. It's Jae-hyun. From inside, the person asks who it is, and Jae-hyun calmly answers that it's him. The door opens right away, and Fatty shows up, asking if something's wrong. With a serious look, Jae-hyun says he needs to ask a favor. Still surprised, Fatty wonders what kind of favor Jae-hyun could possibly want. Keeping a firm, determined expression, Jae-hyun explains that he needs Fatty to look after his money. They exchange a few words that aren't revealed to us in the narration, and shortly after, Fatty is left standing there, completely shocked by what he just heard. After thinking over the tax collection skill, Jae-hyun came to a realization. If he entrusted a sum of money to someone reliable and simply let it sit, that money would generate profit for him over time. The system applied an initial 10% tax fee when he donated the money the first time, but afterwards it would bring in a 10% profit every month. So, Jae-hyun began carefully considering who was trustworthy enough to handle such a responsibility. He checked through the status screens of several citizens until he stopped at Choi Hyeongjin, better known as Fatty, and noticed his 89 points in trust and 98 in loyalty. The difference was undeniable. Compared to everyone else, Fatty's loyalty and trust stood out overwhelmingly. It became obvious to Jae-hyun that Fatty was the right choice. The system then confirmed that Jae-hyun had successfully donated 1 billion won to him, with the 10% fee already deducted. Immediately after, Fatty's loyalty and trust stats rose even higher. Still nervous but needing clarity, Fatty asked if he was only supposed to hold the money or if he was allowed to use a little bit of it. This had actually been Jae-hyun's original intention, though he hadn't expected Fatty's loyalty to reach the full 100 points. So he told him yes, he could use a small portion. Overwhelmed by the answer, Fatty bowed deeply in gratitude and thanked him sincerely. Jae-hyun, in return, told him to stop bowing and assured him that he completely trusted him. With that matter resolved, Jae-hyun moved on to the next task. He went to see Dabin, introduced her to Hyran, and said that Hyran could join her team. On top of that, since Dabin would now be leading the team, he told her he would double her weekly salary. Hearing this, Dabin's loyalty grew further. Excited by the sudden pay raise, she hugged Hyran close and promised to do her best, full of energy. She then rushed off with Hyran, happily announcing that they were about to start their first delivery. Struggling to keep pace, Hyran asked her to slow down. Watching them, Jae-hyun felt relieved, certain that the two would get along well. But after that came a tougher matter. At apartment 2109, Jae-hyun gathered everyone and acknowledged how hard they had worked today, asking how they felt. They all came out to greet him, and Dong Jian spoke on their behalf, saying they were fine before asking why he had come. Jae-hyun explained that because of the monster at Seomayan Station, the surrounding area, especially the subway tracks, was now considered monster-free. From Seomayan to the next station, there were almost no monsters left, and this gave them a rare chance before another monster appeared to occupy the zone. They would need to take action first. Reflecting on Hyran's desperate pleas earlier, Jae-hyun understood something important. These people were risking their lives to carry out the missions he assigned. And it was only thanks to Yejin, the so-called Queen of Rats, that they had learned about the giant snake beforehand. Without that warning, things could have gone terribly wrong. In a world where death could strike at any moment, Jae-hyun realized that his desire to protect his family might be seen as selfish. But even so, he couldn't stop. So, he gave the order Dong Jian's group would head to Jigaoki Station tomorrow. The next morning, Blackie stretched lazily after waking up, while Jae-hyun sat down to have his breakfast. At the same time, the system displayed that the efficiency of the solar generator had increased and that Blackie's level had risen as well. Seeing that Blackie had already reached level 5 made Jae-hyun feel excited. The system then revealed that Blackie was now releasing part of the sun's power, inheriting a portion of the divine beast's abilities, and that Jae-hyun himself had awakened basic elemental fire magic. The sudden realization of having actual magical powers left him a bit shocked and slightly unsettled. Lifting one of his fingers, he quietly wondered how he was supposed to use this fire magic, when suddenly a small flame appeared at his fingertip. Realizing that it actually worked surprised him even more. As the flame flickered gently from his finger, he noticed that the sensation felt strangely familiar. It didn't take long for him to recall that this was very similar to the feeling he experienced when using the dignity preservation ability. Convinced of the connection, he decided to head outside for some open space to test it more properly. Walking around, he saw that the surroundings were empty and completely quiet. Closing his eyes, he began using his imagination, picturing a massive, overwhelming flame capable of burning down the entire area. Soon enough, a fire started to form and expand in his palm, the power coursing through his body from his hand to the rest of him. With a firm motion, he hurled the fireball forward. But the result left him bitterly disappointed. Instead of the massive blaze he imagined, only a small, unimpressive fireball floated in the air. His earlier excitement instantly disappeared, and he couldn't help questioning if this weak result was really the limit of his current abilities. It was clear that, at this stage, the magic wasn't all that powerful. Still, he acknowledged that it had potential uses. That's when it struck him. If he combined this fire magic with his gas, the results could become truly dangerous. For now, this was the extent of what he could do, but the potential was limitless. With it, he could fuel his needs, generate electricity, and even convert the excess into money that would be deposited directly into his shut-in wallet. Just then, someone approached while humming a tune, drawing Jaehyun's attention. It was Yejin, the queen of rats, coming to thank him for the rest period he had allowed her. She said that thanks to him, she had been able to recover well. Jaehyun replied that he had simply given her the treatment her ability deserved, and since her help had greatly expanded the range of his own powers, supporting her was only natural. Smiling, he told her he'd be counting on her again today. He also mentioned that Dong Jian's group was waiting at Seomayan Station and asked her to guide them as soon as possible. Yejin responded that she had already dispatched rats along the subway tracks, as they could reach Koryang Station without any difficulty. Hearing that, Jaehyun's eyes widened, and he asked if something had happened beyond Koryang. She confirmed that there had, specifically at Busan Station. She told him it would be better for him to see it himself. Sitting down on the ground, she focused deeply and activated her ability to control one of her rats at the location. Through the rat's vision, they saw the station in ruins, debris, and rubble blocking access, and much of the area submerged in water. Using his ultimate eyes, Jaehyun realized instantly that the place was impossible to pass through in its current condition. Yejin explained that this was exactly why she had sent rats ahead. But what they discovered afterward was even worse, a scene of pure devastation. With ultimate eyes, Jaehyun saw the same thing. Not a single building was left standing. Everything was destroyed. Stunned, he wondered what on earth had caused such destruction. One rat approached a hole in the ground, which turned out to be a massive crater. At first, Jaehyun questioned what it might be, but as the rat adjusted its angle, the truth became clear. It wasn't just a crater, it was a footprint, likely left behind by a giant. The realization hit him hard. The situation was far more serious than he had imagined. That explained the absence of buildings and why even the roads were shattered. Suddenly, Jaehyun felt a tremor beneath his feet. It was like an earthquake. Both he and Yejin were startled, quickly going on alert as the ground shook violently. The queen of rats collapsed to the ground, crouching in fear and screaming in terror. Jaehyun rushed toward her to calm her down, but then he too began feeling a deep discomfort. If these tremors continued and grew stronger, he realized every building still standing would eventually collapse.